Ingredients are laid out as a voice confirms everything is ready for a meal. The orange-haired Seo Jae-woo begins cooking, realizing he's been reincarnated as a side character in a novel. A delicious meal of rice, egg rolls, and stew sits steaming on the table. Jae-woo watches through a creaking door as two young boys prepare to wash up in the cold. The older black-haired boy helps his younger brother clean up at an outdoor sink.
Jae-woo recalls the novel's plot involving the hard-working main character, the black-haired Yoo Hyun-jin.
Memories of the original Jae-woo's cruelty surface, depicting him as a vile landlord who bullied Hyunjin. Hyunjin's younger brothers shiver together, victims of their family's miserable circumstances and a runaway mother.
Finding the fridge empty, Jae-woo decides to head out for a much-needed grocery run.
A quick beep sounds at the central supermarket as the shopping trip begins.
Jae-woo is disappointed to learn the shop won't deliver to his difficult-to-reach neighborhood. He trudges home with heavy bags, grumbling about the delivery refusal and the mountain of pork he bought. Suddenly, Jae-woo spots the black-haired Hyunjin walking toward him in the street. He gasps in surprise, not expecting to run into the protagonist so unexpectedly. Jae-woo attempts a friendly greeting, but his voice falters as he faces the man he formerly bullied. Hyunjin stares coldly while Jae-woo offers an awkward, nervous laugh. Despite his tired appearance, Hyunjin's celebrity-level looks leave Jae-woo completely awestruck. A sudden whoosh of air marks the moment Hyunjin steps closer with an intense, intimidating gaze. Hyunjin sternly reminds him of a previous warning to stop bothering him, causing Jae-woo to recoil. Jae-woo quickly apologizes and laughs it off as Hyunjin turns to walk away with a frown. Watching him leave, Jae-woo laments how badly the original character already ruined their relationship. A loud ch sounds as meat hits the pan, while Jae-woo plots to avoid his destined murder. He grills pork slices, resolving to win Hyunjin's favor by first befriending his younger brothers. The two boys peek into the room with wide eyes as the smell of barbecue reaches them. Jae-woo flashes a bright smile, tempting the hungry children with an offer of grilled meat. The black-haired Hyunwoo fidgets nervously, asking if they are truly allowed to eat such a feast. The children dig in happily, while Jae-woo silently vows to help them gain some healthy weight. Later that night, an exhausted Hyunjin exhales a tired woo while walking home from work. He gazes at the night sky, burdened by debt and the relentless cycle of working without rest. A loud growl erupts from his stomach, leaving him blushing with hunger and embarrassment. He curses the vile Jae-woo, but accepts his miserable living situation for the sake of cheap rent. Jae-woo greets him with a cheerful wave, though Hyunjin responds with a deep, suspicious frown. As Hyunjin tries to pass, Jae-woo grabs his arm with a firm hold to stop him. Looking sincere, Jae-woo asks if he has had dinner yet, catching the younger man off guard. Hyunjin yanks his arm away, curtly lying that he has already eaten despite his obvious hunger. Jae-woo points out that he heard the loud stomach growl from across the street, making Hyunjin blush. He persists with the food offer, but Hyunjin stubbornly refuses and insists he is fine. To tempt him, Jae-woo describes the juicy, spicy pork stir-fry waiting for him inside. Hyunjin imagines his hungry brothers and feels the weight of his exhaustion and hunger. Hyunwoo and Woo-hee eat heartily, enjoying the spread of food Jae-woo prepared for them. A sudden burst sounds as the door flies open, causing Jae-woo to jolt in surprise. Hyunjin stands in the doorway, glaring at Jae-woo, who is still wearing a cooking apron. Nervous, Jae-woo scratches his head while explaining he was just feeding the hungry children. When Jae-woo lists the menu, Hyunjin snaps that he isn't interested in the specific dishes. Hyunjin demands an explanation for his brother's behavior, and Jae-woo simply notes they were hungry. Hyunjin orders him to stay away from his brothers, but Jae-woo protests that they are malnourished. They stand in a tense standoff, with Jae-woo determined to help the thin, shivering children.
Hyunjin's eyes narrow as he silently processes the unexpected change in his landlord's behavior.
With a final warning to leave them alone, Hyunjin retreats and slams the door shut. A heavy thud echoes as Hyunjin leans against the door, exhaling a frustrated breath. Frustrated and blushing, the black-haired Hyunjin pounds his head, denying that his landlord could ever be cute. Hyunwoo and Woo-hee cheer with pure joy, their eyes sparkling as they declare the meal absolutely delicious. The boys excitedly show off their clean clothes to Hyunjin, who remains seated and silent on the floor. A sudden open sounds as the orange-haired Jaewoo looks up in surprise, caught off guard by Hyunjin's presence. Hyunjin looms over a startled Jaewoo with a stern expression, coldly stating that they need to have a talk. When asked why he is being so kind, Jaewoo offers a simple shrug and explains he just wanted to feed them. Hyunjin looks away with a skeptical hum, deeply suspicious of the sudden change in the landlord's previously cruel behavior. Jaewoo looks on with concern as he mentions the food, while Hyunjin remains guarded and silent before him. A sudden sounds as Hyunjin forcefully rejects the money, leaving a quivering Jaewoo shocked by his intense strength. A quick turn sounds as Hyunjin prepares to leave, but a sudden grab stops him as Jaewoo reaches out. Jaewoo persists with his invitation to eat, but the black-haired man remains resolute in his cold, firm refusal. A nervous laugh escapes Jaewoo as a rumple sounds from the cash, reminding Hyunjin he already paid for it. Hyunjin looks conflicted and guilty as Jaewoo's loud shout for the children to come eat echoes through the house. A series of dash sounds follow as the kids drag a reluctant Hyunjin toward the table with excited cheers. A cheerful ta-da sounds as a steaming spread of tofu stew and savory side dishes is revealed on the table. Hyunjin sits at the table with a nervous gulp, overwhelmed by the delicious scent and the landlord's strange kindness. A soft slide sounds as Jaewoo places a generous serving of food before the silent and surprised black-haired man. With a bright, encouraging smile, Jaewoo holds out a spoonful of hot food and urges Hyunjin to try it. Hyunjin hesitates with a soft his face flushing as he struggles to process the landlord's unexpected warmth. A fleeting memory of a warm, crowded family table surfaces, contrasting sharply with Hyunjin's current, lonely, and difficult life. Visibly moved, Hyunjin lets out a soft ahem and rubs his eye, clearly touched by the simple, caring gesture. A sudden jolt of surprise hits Jaewoo as he watches Hyunjin's emotional reaction while mid-bite during their shared meal. Jaewoo beams with a relieved smile, genuinely happy to see that the hard-working man is finally enjoying the food. While watching the boys eat, Hyunjin privately wonders if a different soul has somehow taken over the landlord's body. In a cute chibi form, Hyunjin continues to eat with a series of nom sounds, dismissing his impossible thoughts. The two brothers wave goodbye as they head off, leaving Jaewoo and Hyunjin together on the porch steps. A loud yawn escapes Hyunjin as the exhaustion of his long workdays and heavy debt finally catches up to him. A tired whew sounds as Hyunjin thinks about how full he feels after Jaewoo kept refilling his bowl. Jaewoo asks if he had enough to eat, and a satisfied Hyunjin admits that he is completely stuffed. As Jaewoo smiles brightly, Hyunjin wonders if the landlord has been possessed by some sort of food-obsessed demon. Looking increasingly drowsy, Hyunjin's suspicion lingers as he questions why Jaewoo is being so incredibly nice to him. Jaewoo asks if he is off work today, while Hyunjin's internal thoughts remain fixed on finding an ulterior motive. A soft blink sounds as Hyunjin's eyes flutter, his mind resolving to stay away despite his growing sleepiness. With a sudden tilt, Hyunjin's head falls back as he finally succumbs to a deep and heavy sleep. Jaewoo quickly moves to catch the falling man, calling out his name in a moment of startled concern. A soft crackle sounds in the quiet room as Jae-woo watches over the sleeping Hyunjin with a gentle smile.
Hyunjin wakes up with a start, realizing in a panic that he somehow fell asleep in the landlord's bed.
Turning away awkwardly, Hyunjin defensively states that he never asked for any of these generous favors or help.
Jae-woo smiles warmly, suggesting that having a good meal to look forward to can make any difficult day better.
A hungry gulp sounds as Hyunjin accidentally pictures the delicious pork stir-fry, his resolve weakening against his own stomach.
Hyunjin offers a stiff thanks for the breakfast, but insists on passing on the offer for dinner tonight.
A heavy shut sounds as Hyunjin steps outside, reminding himself that he must reject the landlord's confusing kindness.
Returning home, Hyunjin asks his brothers about their day, and they excitedly mention the delicious pork dinner waiting.
Hyunjin's expression turns somber as he tries to suggest ramen, realizing his brothers are tired of their meager lifestyle.
A sharp yank and whack sound as the youngest brother refuses the ramen, demanding the landlord's better food.
A soft squeak and drip sound from the hose as Jae-woo stands in the yard, looking pensive and alone. Dark memories of the landlord's past cruelty surface, recalling when he ruthlessly bullied Hyunjin about the cost of water. A soft hup sounds as Jae-woo crouches down with a friendly smile, asking Hyunjin if something is wrong. Hyunjin stares back with cold, piercing eyes, bluntly asking why Jae-woo is putting on this act of kindness.
A loud shout erupts as Hyunjin accuses Jae-woo of trying to manipulate him back into a dark past arrangement.
Jae-woo laughs nervously, unfazed by insults as they weren't technically directed at him.
He thinks Hyunjin's innocent nature is adorable, contrasting sharply with the original character's previous cruelty.
Looking at the tenant, Jae-woo finds the black-haired man's attempts at being mean surprisingly cute.
A sudden flinch strikes Hyunjin as he worries his outburst might get his family evicted. With a quick hup, Jae-woo gathers the wet laundry, offering to wash it in his machine.
He notices Hyunjin's wet shoes and kindly invites him inside to let them dry out.
A loud snap sounds as Jae-woo sternly insists he come inside before the cold weather makes him sick.
Hyunjin looks up with a start as the landlord suddenly calls out to grab his attention.
A soft touch accompanies the gift of warm, clean blankets Jae-woo provides to replace the wet ones.
Feeling relieved with a pew, Jae-woo wipes away sweat while asking if the younger man has eaten yet.
Jae-woo persists with his food offer, claiming he accidentally made a huge feast that he cannot finish alone.
Alone at the table, Jae-woo lets out a heavy sigh while looking over the untouched, delicious side dishes.
A loud clang echoes through the night as Hyunjin finally arrives home, shivering in his thin jacket.
Hyunjin exhales a misty breath into the cold air, feeling the bite of the winter night.
To his surprise, he finds Jae-woo fast asleep on the porch, huddled under a green floral blanket.
Hyunjin cautiously reaches out to wake the sleeping landlord, wondering why he is out in the cold.
He gazes at the sleeping man, realizing that his previous claims of change might actually be sincere.
A soft mumble escapes Jae-woo's lips as he dreams of the delicious meal he prepared.
With a sudden jolt, Jae-woo screams for pork stir-fry, leaving a startled Hyunjin jumping back in shock.
They share a bewildered silence as Jae-woo realizes he was dreaming, and Hyunjin stares at him blankly.
Hyunjin's legs go stiff with surprise as he struggles to process the landlord's sudden, loud awakening.
A sudden stagger follows as Jae-woo clumsily tries to stand while still tightly wrapped in his blanket.
A quick catch sounds as Hyunjin instinctively grabs the falling man, pulling him close to prevent a spill. Jae-woo offers a sheepish smile, acknowledging the awkward moment while Hyunjin looks away with a blush. He shoves stacked containers into Hyunjin's hands, claiming it's a reward for the quick save.
A loud stacked sounds as the containers are piled up, filled with a generous amount of home-cooked food. A sudden rush marks Jae-woo's retreat as he flees inside, leaving a confused Hyunjin holding the gift.
Peeking through the door with a swing, Jaewoo barks a final threat to throw the food away if rejected.
A sharp clack sounds as Hyunjin stands alone, looking down at the heavy containers with a conflicted expression. With a tired ha, he decides to keep the food, unable to let such a meal go to waste.
A firm grab secures the lunch as Hyunjin heads out, resolving to focus on his work for now. Later, the black-haired man works diligently at the convenience store, his mind still on the landlord's kindness. His coworkers are amazed when he brings a full lunch, excitedly commenting on the delicious kimchi stew.
A loud plop sounds as Hyunjin sits down, defensively denying that a girlfriend prepared the elaborate meal.
His coworkers lean in with a deliberate twinkle, demanding to know the secret identity of his mysterious personal chef.
A brilliant sparkle surrounds the opened containers, revealing a beautiful spread of rice, eggs, and sides.
While his friend notes the food looks like a grandmother's cooking, Hyunjin privately admires the spicy pork.
A soft smile and a series of clatter sounds follow as they begin their hearty lunch break together. As he eats, Hyunjin thinks the meal is delicious and vows to cook the same for his brothers. His friend laughs, noting that he's never seen the usually tired man eat with such pure enthusiasm.
A sudden rattle sounds as Hyunjin walks home, determined to provide a better life for his siblings.
He looks into his bag at the empty containers, feeling a strange warmth from the landlord's unexpected care. He wonders if the food was given out of pity, clutching the containers tightly to his chest. Another rattle sounds as he shakes off the thought, reminding himself not to get used to such kindness. A heavy ha escapes him when he encounters a menacing loan shark who greets him with fake friendliness. A sharp jolt of terror hits Hyunjin as the man reveals his father has accumulated even more debt. Hyunjin quivers in rage as the man demands an impossible monthly payment, mocking his desperate situation. A sudden whoosh and wham sound as Hyunjin punches the wall in frustration while the loan shark smirks. The man snickers, suggesting a shady job to pay off the debt and support his younger brothers. With a final pft, the loan shark mocks his poverty, leaving Hyunjin crushed by the weight of his reality. A mocking voice laughs that this could be the last meat the black-haired man ever gets to eat as his hand quivers and a loud clench sounds. Leaning heavily against a pillar outside, a tired ha escapes Hyunjin as he rubs his forehead in deep exhaustion. The sunset casts a warm, orange glow over the crowded rooftops and water tanks of the quiet neighborhood.
A loud creak echoes through the air as Hyunjin pushes open the metal gate and steps into the yard.
Jaewoo looks up from the laundry rack and brightly welcomes the younger man back home.
The orange-haired landlord asks about the lunch he prepared, and a somber Hyunjin admits it was good. Noticing a bloody injury on Hyunjin's hand, a worried Jaewoo insists on cleaning it before it becomes infected. Jaewoo looks at the tenant with deep concern, wondering if something terrible happened while he was away. Hyunjin sits in silence with a shaded expression, his wounded hand resting visibly as he processes his grim reality. Jaewoo's anger flares as he wonders if the man's worthless father has caused more trouble for the family. When Hyunjin insists he needs to take on more jobs, Jaewoo is shocked by his reckless work ethic. Looking increasingly distressed, the black-haired man claims he must work more no matter the cost. Jaewoo gazes at him with soft eyes, his heart breaking for the heavy burden the younger man carries. In a sudden, tender movement, the landlord pulls the trembling man into a warm and supportive hug. A soft pat sounds as Jaewoo holds him close, gently telling him to take a slow, deep breather. A quiet trickle sounds as Hyunjin finally breaks down, his tears soaking into the landlord's shoulder during the embrace. Jaewoo keeps a firm hold on him, offering quiet comfort by promising that everything is going to be fine. With a gentle movement, they both sit on the floor as Jaewoo continues to steady the sobbing man. Flushing with emotion,
A tearful Hyunjin tries to compose himself while the landlord stays by his side. Watching him closely, Jae-woo thinks about how much the man must have suffered in silence. A soft whew sounds as Jae-woo wonders what he can possibly do to prove he is someone worth relying on.
Looking determined, the orange-haired landlord prepares a bandage to treat the painful wound on Hyunjin's hand.
A quick pull sounds as Jae-woo carefully applies the dressing, securing it firmly over the injured knuckles.
Despite his pain, Hyunjin looks away and states that he must leave for his next shift immediately.
Jae-woo is absolutely incredulous, questioning why he would go to work with his hand in such a state. The black-haired man looks down with a grim resolve, stating that making money is his only priority.
Startled by his stubbornness, Jae-woo shouts for him to wait as the younger man tries to stand.
A sharp yank sounds as Jae-woo grabs the man's arm, desperately pleading with him not to leave. They tumble together onto the bed in a sudden jolt, leaving a shocked Hyunjin staring up at the landlord. Still hovering over him, a blushing Jae-woo demands to know the address of the man's workplace. With a quick swish, Jae-woo tucks him into the blankets while the dazed man mumbles the location of the bar. Jae-woo tells a flustered Hyunjin to stay put and rest, completely ignoring the younger man's weak protests. Looking resolute, the landlord announces that he will go and cover the work shift himself. A final pot sounds as Jae-woo touches the man's bandaged hand, telling him to get some much-needed sleep.
As he prepares to head out, Jae-woo offers a final good night to the man resting in his bed.
Leaning in close, the landlord's soft whisper urges the exhausted tenant to sleep tight and recover. The scene shifts to the dark, quiet alleyways of the city under a vast and starry night sky. A series of step sounds follow as a tired woo escapes Jae-woo while he walks toward the bar. In a cute chibi form, Jae-woo claps with joy while thinking of ways to preserve the original story's plot.
A chibi Hyunjin looks absolutely disgusted, wondering if the landlord expects payment with his body.
Jae-woo considers using government aid, but worries the two main characters will never meet if the debt is cleared. Looking pensive, the orange-haired man thinks to himself that sticking to the script is far from easy. A sudden jingle sounds as he arrives at the bar entrance, noticing the bright neon signs inside. A handsome bartender looks up with a friendly smile and welcomes the new guest to the establishment.
Jae-woo offers a polite bow and explains that he has come to substitute for the unwell Hyunjin.
A look of utter surprise hits Jae-woo when the bartender mentions that Hyunjin is already on his way. Breathing heavily, a sweating Hyunjin arrives at the door and apologizes for his lateness. Jae-woo stares at the stubborn man in disbelief, unable to fathom why he wouldn't just stay home and rest.
With a quick turn, Hyunjin ignores the landlord's concern and insists on getting changed for his shift.
A soft ha sounds as Jae-woo realizes the younger man is simply trying to change the subject.
The black-haired man stands behind the bar, looking poised and professional in his server's uniform.
A cheerful laugh escapes Jae-woo as he enjoys a bright orange cocktail, while the bartender looks on with surprise. The orange-haired man insists he has a high tolerance despite the bartender's warning that the drink is quite potent. A playful peek marks Jae-woo's expression as he watches the black-haired man through the rim of his glass. Jae-woo privately admires the bartender's good looks, while the younger man dismisses the compliment with a stoic expression. A slow sip follows as the landlord thinks to himself that the man looks even more handsome while dressed up. A series of loud gulp sounds echo as Jae-woo finishes his drink and enthusiastically raises the glass for another. The orange-haired man suddenly slumps onto the bar counter, his bravado defeated by the strength of the alcohol. Hyunjin leans over the bar with a worried expression, asking the landlord if he is feeling all right. A rhythmic shake sounds as Jae-woo weakly rattles his empty glass, stubbornly insisting that he isn't drunk yet.
A tired whew escapes the flushed landlord as he struggles to keep his head up on the counter. A happy laugh and a soft giggle sound as Jaewoo holds his face, clearly feeling the effects of the drinks. The black-haired bartender watches the man with a complicated expression, seemingly caught between annoyance and genuine concern. In a tender moment, Hyunjin reaches out to cradle the landlord's face, searching his eyes for a response. A sudden grasp and a sharp gasp sound as Jaewoo reacts to the contact, his face turning a deep red. A sharp yank follows as Jaewoo grabs the man's arm, loudly demanding to be addressed by his first name. Hyunjin freezes in shock, his eyes wide as he tries to process the landlord's sudden and forceful outburst. In a cute chibi form, Jaewoo insists that the younger man repeats his name over and over again. Looking incredibly awkward, the black-haired man blushes while struggling to say the landlord's name as requested. A brilliant beam of light surrounds Jaewoo as he celebrates the small victory with a wide, drunken smile. The landlord leans in close, telling the black-haired man that they should only use first names from now on. A loud bang sounds as Chibi Jaewoo accidentally hits his head, leaving the black-haired man startled and confused. The scene shifts to the bar's interior as a final farewell marks the end of the long night shift. Hyunjin carries the sleeping landlord home on a piggyback, noting that the older man is surprisingly light. A heavy slump sounds as Jaewoo leans his head against the younger man's shoulder, completely lost to sleep. A soft nuzzle and a startled gasp follow, as the landlord stirs, pressing closer to the black-haired man's neck. They share a series of quiet sigh sounds while walking through the dark neighborhood under the cool night sky. A bright blush spreads across Hyunjin's face as he feels the weight of the sleeping man against him. A steady trudge and a soft wriggle sound as the black-haired man carries his passenger down the empty street. A quiet blink marks Jaewoo's awakening as he slowly opens his eyes and realizes where he is. Still dazed, the orange-haired man looks around and asks who is carrying him through the quiet night. A quick lower sounds as Hyunjin stops, sensing the man on his back beginning to wake up and move. A happy shout and a firm shush follow as Jaewoo recognizes Hyunjin and loudly calls out his name. A soft giggle and a quiet shh sound as the landlord playfully agrees to be silent for the walk. A gentle grin touches the black-haired man's lips as he looks back at the landlord's adorable, drunken antics. A sudden swoop sounds as Jaewoo pulls the younger man into a close and startlingly intimate embrace. Hyunjin looks completely flustered, asking what is wrong while being held so closely in the middle of the street. The orange-haired landlord gazes up at him with soft, earnest eyes, his expression filled with a sudden, deep sincerity. A soft whisper follows as Jaewoo makes an incredible offer to pay off the younger man's massive family debt. The landlord speaks with a gentle tone, his heart visible in his eyes as he tries to help. A deep frown clouds Hyunjin's face as he wonders if this kindness is just a trap for something more. Turning away, the black-haired man coldly asks if the landlord expects payment with his body in return. Jaewoo looks up in utter confusion, his eyes wide as he realizes his offer has been deeply misunderstood. A loud clench sounds as Hyunjin grips his jacket, his hands quivering with a mix of rage and hurt. A sharp slap follows as Hyunjin rejects the idea of a transaction, stating his body is not for sale. They share a tense look as the landlord scowls, seemingly offended by the suggestion of such a shady deal. A flurry of slap sounds follow as Jaewoo angrily shouts that a person's body should always be treated with respect. A firm grab sounds as the black-haired man catches the landlord's hand, ending the sudden, chaotic outburst.
A loud shout echoes as Hyunjin demands to know why else anyone would ever offer such a huge favor.
Looking at him with a somber expression, Jae-woo thinks about how much the man must have suffered to be this cynical.
Hyunjin asks the landlord if his sudden, massive offer of financial help is born simply out of pity.
Jae-woo is struck by his question, wondering why he cares so much about what this particular person thinks. The black-haired man tells the landlord to save his compassion, stating firmly that he has no need for pity.
A quick whirl sounds as Hyunjin turns away, leaving the blushing landlord standing alone in the quiet street.
Jae-woo is left in a daze, realizing the man completely misinterpreted his sincere desire to help him. A loud bang and rhythmic step sounds follow as Jae-woo hits his head while the tenant walks away.
A soft ha sounds as the black-haired man stops, feeling guilty for leaving the landlord alone behind him.
Jae-woo admits he understands why the man would be upset before a sudden, firm grab catches his arm.
Returning to his side, the black-haired man asks the landlord if he is planning on going home soon. Jae-woo claims he is just feeling dizzy while privately noting that the younger man isn't pushing him away.
A gentle reach sounds as the black-haired man takes hold of the landlord's hand in the dark street.
The black-haired man tells the dizzy landlord to watch his step and follow him closely as they walk.
A happy shout sounds as Jae-woo agrees, and they walk home together, hand in hand under the night sky.
A loud flop sounds as the drunken landlord collapses onto his bed, celebrating his return to home sweet home.
Hyunjin watches him with a silent, pensive expression as the landlord remains sprawled out on the soft mattress. The orange-haired landlord looks up with a baffled expression as the younger man suddenly calls out his name.
A series of pot sounds echo as a giddy Jae-woo invites the black-haired man to join him in bed. Turning away with a humph, the younger man tells the landlord to sleep as he prepares to leave.
A creak and a tired ha sound as the black-haired man leaves, deciding the landlord shouldn't drink again.
In a cute chibi form, the black-haired man worries about the landlord's morning hangover and decides to cook.
A metallic clank sounds as a hand lifts the lid off a pot in the quiet morning kitchen.
The scene shifts to the exterior of the house, standing peaceful and still under a bright, clear blue sky.
Jae-woo wakes up with a miserable expression, feeling incredibly nauseous from the previous night's heavy drinking session.
A clank and a slurp sound as Jae-woo tastes the delicious bean sprout soup, realizing he didn't cook it.
Jae-woo is deeply touched, realizing the black-haired man must have cooked for him despite his own extreme exhaustion.
The orange-haired man looks pensive and determined, clearly moved by the tenant's unexpected and quiet display of kindness.
A final clack sounds as Jae-woo finishes the meal, putting his spoon down into the empty bowl of rice.
The scene shifts to the house exterior again, showing the passage of time as the bright day continues.
Sitting on the porch, Jae-woo waits patiently for the younger man to return from his long work shift.
Jae-woo welcomes a startled Hyunjin back home, the younger man looking surprised to see the landlord waiting up.
A soft scratch sounds as Jae-woo apologizes for the trouble he caused while he was heavily intoxicated last night.
With a playful smirk and a steady step, the black-haired man claims he can't remember anything that happened. Jae-woo looks incredibly nervous, hoping he didn't do anything stupid or embarrassing while he was completely blacked out.
A soft plop sounds as the black-haired man sits down, teasingly asking if the landlord really wants to know.
A firm nod follows as the orange-haired landlord looks at him with wide, desperate eyes, waiting for the truth. A heavy dun sounds as the black-haired man confirms with a serious look that the landlord was embarrassing.
Jae-woo has a total meltdown, imagining his soul leaving his body while fearing the younger man hates him again.
A gentle clasp sounds as the black-haired man tells the panicked landlord to stop being so dramatic.
The scene focuses on their legs as the black-haired man mentions there was one more very specific request. Jaewoo's memory flashes back to himself with a wide, drunken smile, loudly demanding that the tenant sleep with him. A deep blush covers the black-haired man's face as he reminds the mortified landlord of his bold proposal.
A loud ha sounds as Jaewoo immediately bows his head in shame, apologizing profusely for his drunken behavior.
The black-haired man looks at him stoically, his silence only making the landlord's intense embarrassment and guilt worse.
A cheerful laugh escapes the younger man as he says it's fine since he sees worse drunks daily.
Jaewoo looks up, still blushing, but feeling slightly relieved that the younger man isn't genuinely angry with him.
A soft scratch sounds as Jaewoo nervously changes the subject, asking if he can raise the man's rent.
A deep frown clouds the black-haired man's face as he realizes his hopes for genuine kindness were misplaced. Jaewoo explains the increase won't be much, and the younger man cautiously asks for the exact amount.
A loud da-dun sounds as Jaewoo demands $30 more while promising to provide all of his meals.
Jaewoo laughs nervously, claiming he just likes cooking and hates having so many leftovers go to waste every day.
Hyunjin asks if the low rent is a loss, but Jaewoo insists it is perfectly fine.
The black-haired man realizes that for a tiny fee, all his meals will now be fully covered. A slow nod follows as Hyunjin accepts the terms, his expression remaining typically stoic and calm.
A deal is struck for next month's rent, leaving the orange-haired landlord beaming with joy and success.
Standing outside a supermarket, Jaewoo dramatically declares that the seal on his wallet has finally been broken.
Holding a large carrot, the landlord giddily plans to plump up the younger man with his cooking.
Carrying a bag full of groceries, Jaewoo lists the many delicious dishes he intends to fry and grill. A sudden shift in mood occurs as Jaewoo looks pensive, recalling the dark details of the original novel.
He remembers how Hyunjin was originally meant to find a wounded man named Moojin in an alleyway.
Jaewoo reflects on how the original version of himself was a villain who treated the protagonist like trash.
A pained wince and a soft sigh follow as he worries about the consequences of his past actions.
He considers the suffering Hyunjin must endure before the story's true romantic events can eventually take place.
Gazing at his hands with 3 blush, Jaewoo feels a sudden, renewed determination to change the narrative course.
With a happy shout, the orange-haired man prepares to get cooking, eager to start his culinary mission.
As steam rises from a pot, he wonders if he should make porridge for the wounded Moojin too.
A quick clack sounds as Chibi Jaewoo decides to keep things simple, reminding himself it's not his job.
A sudden jolt of worry hits him as he wonders if high-status characters only drink expensive European water. A heavy clunk and a sharp gasp sound as the landlord is startled by a noise at the gate.
A soft creak follows as a sleepy Jaewoo emerges, asking if Hyunjin has finally returned home from work. Turning back, the black-haired man confirms his arrival while looking at the landlord with a calm, steady gaze.
Hyunjin tells him to return to bed, but Jaewoo stops him with a sudden, urgent plea to wait.
The orange-haired man asks nervously if he happened to pick up anything unusual on his way back home.
Jaewoo is shocked that Hyunjin returned empty-handed, while the black-haired man is left completely bewildered by the question.
Looking deeply sincere with a heavy blush, Jaewoo clarifies that he was expecting him to bring back a person. Hyunjin stares back, thinking the landlord is incredibly cute, while wondering why he would bring a person home.
A panicked shout follows as Jaewoo claims the person is someone Hyunjin is destined to fall in love with. A firm grasp sounds as the black-haired man takes hold of Jaewoo's arm, stopping his frantic, confusing outburst.
A gentle smile touches Hyunjin's lips as he warns the landlord to be careful in such a shady neighborhood.
Jaewoo looks down at the hand on his arm, acknowledging the warning while feeling a strange, lingering tension.
The black-haired man reaches out to gently raise his hand toward the orange-haired man's face.
A soft flinch sounds as Hyunjin lightly brushes the landlord's hair before once again telling him to sleep.
The scene lingers on the moment Hyunjin firmly holds his arm, emphasizing the physical connection between them. Hyunjin shares another soft, knowing smile, his gaze unexpectedly tender as they stand together in the quiet house.
A soft ah and a clack sound as the black-haired man walks away, leaving Jaewoo dazed and alone.
Breathing heavily with a bright blush, Jaewoo struggles to process the confusing and intimate interaction they just shared. The scene shifts to the city buildings as Jaewoo wonders if Moojin is still waiting in the alley. Letting out a series of huff sounds, the landlord runs through the streets, searching for the missing plot point. In a dark, shadowy corner, a man with black hair sits slumped against a wall, lost in the gloom. Jaewoo stops, breathless, realizing the man is exactly where the original novel said he would be found. Letting out a soft ha, he can't believe no one stopped to help the poor man all night long. A quiet tiptoe sound follows, as Jaewoo realizes Hyunjin must have walked right past without even noticing Moojin. A series of heavy step sounds echo as Jaewoo decides he cannot risk interfering with the original storyline. The scene shifts to a table overflowing with a massive breakfast feast prepared by the hardworking, orange-haired landlord. A series of sparkle sounds surround the food as a stunned Hyunjin questions the cost of such ingredients. Looking at Jaewoo with suspicion, the black-haired man calls him a liar for claiming these are just leftovers. In a chibi vision, Jaewoo panics about the soulmate plot, while Hyunjin prepares to head out for the day. Hyunjin tells him to report any injured people to the police instead of bringing unwanted trouble into their home. Sitting on the floor with a dark aura, the black-haired man finds the idea of such kindness totally unacceptable. Handing over the lunch containers, Jaewoo sees him off at the gate, fulfilling his promise to provide meals. Waving goodbye, the landlord decides to take one quick peek at the alleyway on his way to shop. Standing outside the central supermarket, Jaewoo carries a bag of groceries while a nervous peek reveals his anxiety. Looking at the unconscious man, Jaewoo worries about leaving a victim with a stab wound alone in this neighborhood. A startled oof sounds as Jaewoo realizes Moojin has woken up and is staring right at him with intensity. His hands tremble as he tries to call for help, but Moojin warns him to stop despite the potential repercussions. Letting out a nervous ha-ha, Jaewoo realizes that revealing the man's destiny would likely lead to his own destruction. A sudden jolt of alarm hits Jaewoo as he realizes the black-haired man is burning up with a fever. With a loud hup and a heavy heave, Jaewoo struggles to hoist the unconscious man onto his back. Letting out an ugh, Jaewoo finally manages to lift Moojin, though the man is incredibly heavy to carry alone. A loud slam sounds as Jaewoo makes it home, looking drained while the wounded man remains unconscious on him. Hyunjin looks on with a sharp scowl, clearly irritated and suspicious of the stranger the landlord brought home. A series of ha sounds follow as Jaewoo catches his breath, subconsciously touching the dark bruise on his neck. A sudden tremble shakes Moojin's frame as he struggles to stay upright, his black shirt hanging open. With a dangerous stumble, Moojin glares at his surroundings and aggressively challenges anyone to come at him. A sharp gasp and a jolt sound as Jaewoo is nearly caught in the middle of the growing tension. A heavy bam sounds as the black-haired man shouts in frustration, his anger flaring despite his weakened state. Looking baffled, Jaewoo is taken aback by the man's foul mouth and aggressive attitude despite being a patient. With a swift swish, Hyunjin coldly tells the landlord to stop helping and just leave the stranger alone. Moojin demands to know what Jaewoo plans to do, his expression fierce as he suspects a trap.
A sudden slap sounds as Jaewoo covers the wounded man's mouth, firmly ordering him to stop swearing.
Jaewoo looks at the belligerent man with an open-mouthed expression of sheer exasperation and disbelief. Mujin is left completely stunned, a quiet ha escaping him as he processes the landlord's unexpected rebuke. The orange-haired man continues to shout, his eyes closed as he prepares to voice his intense disapproval. A series of slap sounds echo as Jaewoo hits the man's shoulders, reminding him how a patient ought to behave. A sharp shout follows as Jaewoo firmly orders the wounded man to lie back down and rest immediately. Mujin slumps over, his back to the landlord as he finally yields to the orange-haired man's persistent demands. A wave of dizziness washes over Jaewoo, his vision blurring as the intense stress of the encounter takes its toll. A soft tap sounds as Jaewoo rubs his forehead, trying to clear his head despite his physical exhaustion. Hyunjin holds out a bottle, asking with a calm gaze if this medicine is what the landlord was looking for. With a relieved laugh, Jaewoo thanks the younger man, his mood visibly lifting as he takes the container. In a cute chibi form, a quick snatch sounds as Hyunjin takes the bottle back, looking slightly grumpy.
Jaewoo explains with a bright smile and a blush that the medicine is meant to be fed to the patient.
Hyunjin looks skeptical and slightly annoyed, clearly questioning why the landlord is helping such a dangerous person. Mujin lies on a pillow, his face flushed with fever as he lets out heavy breaths in his sleep. Jaewoo offers a sheepish smile, acknowledging the tension but feeling he has no choice but to help the man. A thought bubble reveals Jaewoo's internal conflict, knowing he must proceed, even if it makes Hyunjin mad. Clasping his bruised neck, Jaewoo reflects on how he doesn't particularly want to be saving his own attacker. The orange-haired man looks pensive and resolute, stating that he simply has his own important secret reasons. Jaewoo thinks about the destined soulmate connection between the two men, feeling the weight of the original plot. He realizes that keeping the gangster alive is crucial for ensuring the story stays on its intended track. Mujin barks out a warning, suspecting the medicine might actually be a deadly poison intended for him. A pained ugh sounds as Hyunjin suddenly grabs Mujin by the throat, his patience for the man finally snapping. A splash and a gulp sound as the medicine is forced down Mujin's throat while he is pinned down. A series of cough sounds follow as Mujin struggles to breathe, cursing the landlord for his aggressive caretaking. Hyunjin reflects on his own past, recalling when he also found it incredibly difficult to accept Jaewoo's kindness. The black-haired tenant's gaze hardens as he decides he can no longer just sit back and do nothing. Looking at both characters, Hyunjin finds himself deeply unsettled by the strange and increasingly chaotic situation. A text box emphasizes that for some reason, the current messy development doesn't make Hyunjin happy at all. Jaewoo asks if there's any antiseptic at home, his hand once again moving to his bruised neck. A soft tremble sounds as Hyunjin stares at the first aid kit, his expression dark and unreadable. A quick snatch sounds as chibi Hyunjin takes the kit, looking slightly cross while Jaewoo watches in confusion. A soft rap sounds as a pair of hands carefully winds a clean white bandage around a torso. A sharp slap and a pained sound as Hyunjin finishes the bandaging, eliciting a groan from the patient. Trembling with exertion, the black-haired Mujin glares intensely while demanding to know why the treatment was so rough. The black-haired Hyunjin looks on with a calm, steady gaze, unaffected by the wounded man's aggressive outburst. Jaewoo smiles brightly with a heavy blush, impressed by how skillfully the younger man handled the medical task. Looking away with a slight blush, the black-haired man humbly claims he can handle at least that much. A thought bubble appears over a smiling Jaewoo, reflecting on the difficult life Hyunjin has endured until now. Hyunjin looks down thoughtfully as the orange-haired landlord notes that the man has never been stopped before. Looking pensive, Jaewoo reaches up to touch the dark, lingering bruise on his neck with a worried expression. A soft rise sounds as the black-haired tenant turns with a confused question, noticing the landlord's sudden distraction.
Jae-woo offers a warm smile, telling Hyunjin to go rest while he pops into the kitchen for a moment.
Looking serious, Jae-woo wonders privately if the tenant is already starting to feel some affection toward the dangerous Moojin.
Thinking of the original novel's plot, Jae-woo worries about how cruel the gangster was to the kind-hearted Hyunjin.
Clasping his neck, the orange-haired man is deeply unsettled by how the person he rescued could try to kill him. A heavy huff sounds as a dark flashback shows Moojin choking Jae-woo, who desperately pleaded for his life. Sounds of a throb and a dizzy sensation hit Jae-woo as he clutches his head, feeling physically overwhelmed again. Standing alone in the bathroom, the orange-haired man leans over the sink as a dark aura surrounds him. A loud fall sounds as Jae-woo collapses onto the floor, while a panicked voice shouts his name in alarm.
Hyunjin rushes forward to catch the unconscious landlord, his expression filled with sudden, intense concern and fear.
Looking down at the sleeping man, Hyunjin feels relieved he only fainted, but shocked he worked to the point of exhaustion.
A light poke sounds as a finger gently touches the forehead of the orange-haired man while he remains asleep. A soft swish sounds as the scene focuses on the peacefully sleeping Jae-woo, whose face is still slightly flushed. The black-haired man watches the landlord sleep, his gaze unexpectedly tender and filled with a soft, quiet longing. The scene focuses on Jae-woo's head resting against the tenant's chest, emphasizing the newfound closeness between them.
Looking at the room's calendar, a groggy Jae-woo wonders why the air around him feels so unusually cold.
A soft sounds as the orange-haired man slowly begins to stir, his eyes still closed as consciousness returns.
A warm hug sounds as Jae-woo snuggles closer to a heat source, feeling much more comfortable and cozy. A sharp jolt sounds as the landlord's eyes snap wide open, realizing he is holding onto someone in bed.
Jae-woo is left speechless and wide-eyed as he realizes he is lying directly in front of the black-haired Hyunjin.
A soft snug sounds as the two lie together, with Jae-woo blushing intensely at their intimate and unexpected physical proximity. Looking utterly bewildered, the orange-haired man wonders how he ended up lying in bed with his tenant.
Touching a fresh bandage on his neck, Jae-woo realizes that the black-haired man must have cared for his injury. An intimate gaze passes between them, as Jae-woo realizes they have become close enough for Hyunjin to dress his wounds. A thought bubble reveals that the landlord feels all his effort to feed the younger man was finally worth it. In a fantasy vision, Jae-woo imagines being the best man at a wedding between the two black-haired men.
A sudden jolt sounds as a brown-haired boy looks over his shoulder with a startled and wide-eyed expression.
A soft rise sounds as Jae-woo sits up with a bright smile, announcing that he had a fantastic nap.
The scene shifts to two young boys, one black-haired and one brown-haired, sitting together while one focuses on drawing. Looking at the bathroom sink, Jae-woo tries to remember if he had already been there before he passed out.
Jae-woo reflects on how precious every minute of sleep must be for someone as hardworking as the black-haired Hyunjin.
A quiet turn sounds as the landlord decides to stay lying down for 10 more minutes to avoid waking him.
Hyunjin lies still with his eyes open, looking directly at the orange-haired man with a calm and unreadable expression.
Looking back at him, Jae-woo offers a sheepish but warm smile, his cheeks turning a bright, healthy pink. The black-haired man asks if he is finally awake, while Jae-woo confirms with a nervous and stuttered response. In a chibi vision, Jae-woo looks nervous while acknowledging that the missing gangster Moojin is a very dangerous person. The orange-haired landlord looks off to the side with a cheerful expression, trying to keep the atmosphere light. Jae-woo looks up from his spot, asking if the black-haired man is planning to join him for a meal.
Looking slightly baffled, the black-haired tenant asks for clarification as a large question mark floats beside his head.
In a cute chibi form, Jaewoo waves his hand dismissively and tells the confused man to just never mind.
A soft peak sounds as the orange-haired man watches the tenant, letting out an impressed gasp at the scene.
Looking at the shirtless Moojin, Jaewoo's internal thoughts drift toward how surprisingly well sculpted the wounded man's physique is.
Close-up shots of Moojin's abs revealed the clear results of intense labor, leaving any observer feeling quite envious.
A sudden realization hits Jaewoo as a scrawny sensation overcomes him, making him feel particularly weak compared to the patient.
In his chibi form, Jaewoo laughs off his lack of muscles, recalling his sedentary life as a professional writer.
Wide-eyed with shock, Jaewoo's past profession suddenly flashes before him, prompting him to question his own forgotten memories. A quiet tapping sounds as Jaewoo remembers his previous life, spending long hours typing away on his computer keyboard.
A text box confirms Jaewoo's shocking revelation that he was actually a novelist before being reincarnated into this story.
The scene shifts to a black-haired man diligently working at a desk, illustrating Jaewoo's humble life before the transition. Jaewoo looks back at the black-haired Hyunjin, who watches him with a silent, expectant gaze from the other side. Hyunjin insists on leaving the door open, his voice firm as he sets boundaries for their current precarious living situation.
The black-haired man's expression hardens as he issues a strict command to keep the door open at all times. A sharp swing sounds as Jaewoo yields, reluctantly agreeing to the tenant's demands while standing in the kitchen doorway. Looking at the bedridden Moojin, Jaewoo wonders if there's truly anything to fear from a man in such a weakened state. Watching Moojin groan on the heated floor, Jaewoo begins to doubt the gangster's reputation as a fearsome, high-status character. Jaewoo stares blankly, realizing the man before him doesn't match the crazy top archetype he wrote about in novels. A close-up of the flushed Moojin emphasizes his vulnerability, contradicting the cold and collected persona expected of such characters. A dark flashback reveals Moojin stumbling through a dim alleyway, reflecting on a lifetime defined by constant physical pain.
Tired of his repetitive struggles, the black-haired Moojin recalls simply giving in to his enemy's plans out of sheer exhaustion.
The scene shifts to the moonlit hillside slums, the place where Moojin spent his childhood and eventually chose to retreat. A soft peak sounds as Jaewoo cautiously looks around a doorframe, checking on the patient with a worried expression. Moojin sits with a stoic, unreadable face while Jaewoo stands behind him, their awkward alliance growing increasingly complicated. A sharp gasp sounds as Moojin's eyes widen in surprise, his face flushing as he processes his current surroundings.
The focus turns to Moojin's heavily bandaged torso, his gloved hand resting protectively over the site of his recent injury.
Gritting his teeth, the black-haired man looks up with a mixture of annoyance and confusion at his unexpected caretaker.
Jaewoo greets the patient with a bright, welcoming smile, visibly relieved to see that the dangerous man is finally awake. Overjoyed by the progress, Jaewoo lets out a hearty, blushing laugh, trying his best to lighten the heavy atmosphere.
A pained sounds as Moojin struggles to sit up, his hand pressing against his abdomen as his fever lingers.
Carrying a small wooden table, Jaewoo cheerily asks if Moojin is ready to eat, while Hyunjin watches from the background.
Moojin looks on with intense skepticism, his gaze fixed on the simple meal being offered by his orange-haired host.
A cheerful ta-da sounds as Jaewoo presents a modest bowl of rice and a traditional tea kettle for the patient.
Looking utterly baffled, Chibi Jaewoo defends his simple cooking after the gangster questions the meager contents of his meal. A soft slide sounds as Jaewoo pushes the bowl forward, encouraging the doubtful man to try the rice and tea.
Moojin stares down at the steaming bowl with a neutral expression,
his black hair falling over his intense, narrowed eyes.
A cleared sound confirms the bowl has been licked clean, indicating the simple meal was far better than expected.
Despite his earlier doubts, the black-haired Mujin admits the food wasn't bad, his expression softening just a tiny bit.
A sudden pop sounds as Jaewoo's head reappears with an enthusiastic offer for a second helping of rice.
A loud slurp sounds as Mujin quickly finishes another bowl, leaving Jaewoo wondering if his silence means he enjoyed it.
The scene sparkles as a lavish spread of various Korean side dishes is prepared, looking incredibly appetizing and well-made.
Jaewoo offers more food with a nervous but happy smile, thrilled to see the patient regaining his physical strength.
In a nostalgic flashback, two young boys in heavy winter jackets talk excitedly while standing out in the cold air. Softening his usual cold demeanor, the black-haired Hyunjin offers a rare, gentle smile while thanking the landlord for the meal. Jaewoo beams with happiness, his eyes closed in a joyful grin as he enjoys the rare moment of domestic peace. In their cute chibi forms, Jaewoo asks a grumpy-looking Mujin if he's finally full after eating so much.
Mujin looks away while asking for the landlord's name, his voice neutral but clearly curious about the man helping him.
Taken aback by the direct question, Jaewoo pauses with a blank, startled look as he considers how much to reveal.
A sharp clack sounds as Hyunjin slams his chopsticks down, sternly questioning why Jaewoo would trust a total stranger.
Sweat beads on Jaewoo's face as he nervously argues that simply sharing his name shouldn't be a dangerous thing.
Hyunjin glares intensely, reminding the landlord that they still have no idea what kind of dangerous person Mujin truly is.
Overhearing the tension, the bandaged Mujin lets out a sinister, confident smirk that justifies the younger tenant's deep suspicions.
A soft pass sounds as Mujin hands his empty bowl back to Jaewoo, his smug expression leaving the landlord speechless.
Jaewoo stares at the business card, noting the name of the company, Isak Finance.
Hyunjin holds the card with a dark expression, knowing this group caused his own ruin.
Jaewoo realizes that Mujin's identity was revealed too soon, making the tenant even more suspicious.
A quick snatch sounds as the black-haired man suddenly grabs the card from the landlord's hand. A sharp crumple sounds as Hyunjin crushes the card, warning Jaewoo against accepting things so easily. Looking thoughtful, the bandaged Mujin begins to find the orange-haired man's face strangely familiar.
A thought bubble reveals the gangster's confusion as he tries to remember where they met before.
Mujin narrows his eyes intensely, his gaze fixed on the landlord as he searches his memory.
A mental image of Hyunjin in a formal suit appears, identified as someone they've been monitoring.
Realization dawns on Mujin as he remembers the tenant's face, letting out a satisfied exclamation.
Jaewoo looks on with a worried face, sensing the palpable anger radiating from the black-haired Hyunjin. Mujin requests a full meal next time, while Jaewoo asks if he should see a doctor instead.
Lying back casually, the patient suggests the landlord get him some antibiotics if he is truly concerned.
Hyunjin urges Jaewoo to kick the stranger out immediately, but the landlord remains focused on his injury. In a chibi vision, the black-haired tenant screams for the guest to leave, while Jaewoo looks stressed.
Turning away with a nervous drop of sweat, Jaewoo feels overwhelmed by the constant bickering between them.
A sharp snap sounds as the orange-haired man finally reaches his limit with the ongoing tension.
A loud stomp and slap sound as Jaewoo hits the floor and yells for everyone to stop.
Looking genuinely offended, Mujin asks why he was the only one targeted by the landlord's sudden outburst.
Jaewoo points at the tenant, arguing that Hyunjin is too scrawny to be hit compared to Mujin.
Mujin retorts by calling Jaewoo a shrimp, sparking an indignant and blushing reaction from the host. A soft touch sounds as the gangster's gloved hand reaches out to brush against Jaewoo's skin. A sudden yank sounds as Mujin pulls his hand close, mockingly commenting on how tiny it is.
Hyunjin grabs the landlord and pulls him away, his face contorted with anger at the guest's boldness.
Close-up on Jaewoo's eyes reveal his shock and intense blushing as he is held by the tenant. The black-haired Hyunjin leans in close to the landlord's neck, the proximity making Jaewoo incredibly flustered.
Jaewoo offers a nervous, blushing laugh, trying to reassure his tenant that everything is perfectly fine.
Still holding him, Hyunjin demands to know what is actually happening between the landlord and the patient.
Blushing wildly, Jaewoo insists that they are strictly landlord and tenant, nothing more and nothing less. The orange-haired man pushes the tenant toward the exit, reminding him that he has work starting soon.
Moojin watches them with a skeptical look, questioning if any normal landlord and tenant would act so intimately. Resting his head on a pillow, Moojin reflects on the absurdity of finding such a scene in the slums. The gangster realizes he has never encountered anyone quite like the strange man who took him in. Looking out over the rooftops at dusk, Moojin scoffs at how pathetic he thinks the situation is.
Jaewoo acknowledges that most people wouldn't help a random stranger found on the street like he did. Standing with the black-haired tenant, the landlord admits that this behavior isn't even normal for him. A weary ha sounds as Hyunjin lets out a long sigh, clearly exhausted by the landlord's kindness.
Moojin explains that his company was founded by ruthless gangsters who will do anything for their money.
Jaewoo laughs off the warning, cheerful as he insists he has no reason to ever borrow money.
Hyunjin stares back silently, his expression unreadable as he processes the landlord's optimistic and naive outlook. Waving goodbye, Jaewoo promises to send the patient away as soon as he is healthy enough to walk.
Chibi Jaewoo thinks the guest doesn't care about him, unaware that Moojin is solely focused on him.
Reflecting on the missed meal, Jaewoo decides to prepare some snacks for the children who were interrupted.
A sparkling bowl of crispy fried rice chips appears, looking perfectly golden and ready to be eaten. In a cute chibi guide, Jaewoo demonstrates how to fry rice in a wok to make snacks.
Standing in the kitchen, the orange-haired man turns around as he senses someone approaching from behind him.
The two boys peek into the room, their eyes wide as they comment on the delicious smell.
Jaewoo offers the freshly made snacks to the children, telling them to enjoy them in their room. The excited kids rush away with their treat, while the landlord tells them not to run inside.
Jaewoo looks back toward the bedroom, his expression shifting as he considers what to do with the patient. Moojin's black-gloved hand rests against his heavily bandaged chest as he begins to recover from his recent wound. Peeking around the doorframe, Jaewoo wonders if his mysterious and dangerous guest is actually asleep or faking it. Looking at the back of Moojin's head, Jaewoo recalls that the stoic man suffers from chronic and severe insomnia.
Jaewoo presents a basket of crispy scorched rice chips, encouraging the wounded and grumpy man to try a snack.
Moojin complains about the bland food, while the orange-haired landlord insists he taste it before making any judgments.
A stare sounds as Moojin examines the small, golden chip held carefully between his black-gloved fingers.
The basket is quickly emptied, showing that the guest finished every single piece of the simple fried treat.
Jaewoo beams with happiness, noticing the empty container and offering to prepare even more for his healing guest.
Jaewoo's thoughts sparkle as he notes that the gangster is enjoying the food far more than he originally expected.
A munch sounds as Chibi Moojin sits on the floor, quietly snacking while a strange purple energy surrounds him.
Smiling brightly, Jaewoo mentions that he still hasn't given his unexpected and dangerous house guest a full home tour.
Jaewoo points toward the bathroom, kindly explaining where the guest can find a fresh toothbrush and some clean clothes. Close-up of Moojin's face reveals a rare, genuine smile as he listens to the landlord's overly caring and detailed instructions. Raising his gloved hands, Moojin offers a vague explanation while Jaewoo looks on with a skeptical and sideways glance.
Moojin looks down with a smug, knowing smirk, his intense gaze fixed on the flustered and orange-haired man. Blushing wildly,
Jae-woo shouts in protest, claiming he has never heard such a ridiculous or bold thing before.
In a dark and ominous vision, a black-gloved hand reaches out from the shadows toward an unseen target.
A flinch sounds as Jae-woo squeezes his eyes shut, anticipating a strike from the dark hand looming over him. A halt sounds as Moojin's fingers stop just short of the landlord's face, leaving the man visibly trembling. Moojin smirks with predatory confidence, clearly amused by his ability to easily rattle the kind-hearted and nervous landlord.
A nudge sounds as the gangster's gloved finger lightly brushes the bandages wrapped around Jae-woo's injured neck.
Looking terrified, Jae-woo's throat tightens as he feels the weight of Moojin's gaze and his sudden close proximity.
The distance between them vanishes as the black-haired Moojin leans in close, his grin widening with a sense of mischief.
A poke sounds as Moojin taps the landlord's forehead, playfully asserting his power over the trembling and flustered host.
Moojin looks on with a satisfied smirk, thoroughly enjoying the landlord's flustered and red-faced reaction to his touch.
Looking down with a pained and blushing face, Jae-woo admits that his neck injury actually hurts quite a lot. Standing alone at the kitchen sink, Jae-woo leans forward, feeling completely exhausted by the guest's unpredictable behavior. In a chibi vision, Jae-woo is ticked off by Moojin's happy and insincere apology for his earlier conduct. Angrily glancing back at the closed door, Jae-woo fumes over being chased out of his own comfortable bedroom.
Jae-woo sits on the floor, looking drained and defeated while purple stress lines emanate from his tired body.
A raise sounds as the orange-haired man looks up, startled by the arrival of the two young boys. The black-haired boy returns the empty basket, explaining that they finished all the delicious snacks Jae-woo made. Jae-woo looks at the child with a soft and affectionate expression as the boy confirms the food was delicious. A yay sounds as Jae-woo laughs heartily, thrilled that his simple cooking brought a smile to the children. A hesitate sounds as the black-haired boy looks down, clearly wanting to ask the landlord for a favor. The younger boy excitedly shouts for Jae-woo to sleep in their room with them for the night. Jae-woo is left speechless, his mouth hanging open in surprise at the kid's sudden and sweet, heartfelt request. The two boys sleep peacefully side by side on their flower-patterned pillows, looking adorable in their deep slumber. Jae-woo wakes up feeling warm and cozy, basking in the rare peace of a quiet morning in bed. A sudden realization strikes Jae-woo as he recognizes a familiar and lingering feeling from his sleep that night. The scene reveals a black-haired man sleeping calmly on a pillow, his face softened by rest and peace. Jae-woo's inner monologue panics, wondering if he accidentally cuddled up with the black-haired Hyunjin during the night. Standing nervously by the door, Jae-woo tries to compose himself after realizing his potential midnight cuddle mistake. The black-haired man remains asleep, while a thought bubble captures a moment of quiet and unspoken morning tension. Jae-woo offers a nervous and blushing smile, horrified at the thought of his sleeping habits causing more trouble. Aha sounds as chibi Jae-woo berates himself for hugging the wrong person instead of the sleeping kids. Looking out at the hanging laundry, Jae-woo realizes it's already past noon and he must start cooking dinner. Noting the television program, Jae-woo laments that the mysterious guest in his house kept him from grocery shopping. Peering into the empty refrigerator, the orange-haired man considers making a large batch of homemade winter kimchi. Looking at the wide courtyard, Jae-woo realizes it is the perfect space to set up his traditional seasonal cooking. Jae-woo holds up 4 fingers, pondering if 20 heads of cabbage will be enough for his household's winter kimchi. A sparkling vision of boiled pork and fresh vegetable wraps depicts the delicious feast the landlord plans to serve. Stepping forward in his white sneakers, Jae-woo considers the convenience of having his heavy grocery haul delivered instead. Walking through the neighborhood with a yellow duck tote, the orange-haired man worries about carrying cabbage up the steep hill. The
The two boys stand together on a quiet street as the younger, brown-haired child speaks with great excitement.
Jaewoo lets out a hearty laugh, his hand raised as he playfully engages with the children during their walk. With a desperate shout, the brown-haired boy expresses his intense longing to visit a local amusement park.
Tears well in the younger boy's eyes as he explains how a girl named Ji-yeon was bragging about her trip.
Looking down with a deep blush and a pained expression, the little boy feels incredibly left out. Jaewoo approaches the pair from behind, surprising the black-haired boy who lets out a startled and curious sound.
The children turn around quickly as the orange-haired landlord calls out to them with a warm and friendly greeting. Holding up his grocery bag, Jaewoo invites the two young boys to join him for a trip to the supermarket.
The helpful black-haired boy lets out a quick grab as he insists on carrying the bag for his landlord.
A cheerful ha-ha sounds as the trio happily heads toward the store, the children's spirits significantly lifted by the outing.
Standing before the central supermarket, Jaewoo asks the kids if there is anything special they would like to eat.
The black-haired boy shyly claims they are fine with anything, but Jaewoo encourages them to share their true desires. With a wide-eyed and joyful shout, the younger brown-haired boy excitedly requests a dinner of crispy fried chicken. A shocked sound escapes the older brother while Jaewoo chuckles at the child's sudden and bold culinary request. Smiling warmly, Jaewoo asks if they prefer their chicken plain or coated in a sweet and spicy glaze. The brown-haired boy beams with pure delight, declaring that he loves both varieties and cannot choose between them.
A freeze sounds as the black-haired boy becomes incredibly stiff and nervous, staring ahead with a look of realization.
Looking confident and slightly smug, Jaewoo suggests that the children have finally uncovered his secret identity as a chef. A dramatic da-dun sounds as the boys react with panic, stammering to ask what exactly they have figured out. A playful wink sounds as the blushing landlord confirms their suspicions with a charming and knowing expression. Sparkling with awe, the children's eyes widen in disbelief as they realize Jaewoo intends to cook the chicken himself.
Jaewoo brags that his fried chicken attracts people from miles away, deciding to prepare a soy sauce version too.
The group arrives at the snack aisle, which is filled with rows of colorful bags of chips and crackers. Chibi Jaewoo faces a difficult dilemma, wondering if he should choose chocolate or corn-flavored snacks for the group.
A soft toss sounds as Jaewoo decides to purchase both flavors, surprising the black-haired boy with his generosity.
The black-haired boy looks on with concern, questioning why the landlord is buying such a vast amount of snacks. Shrugging off the concern, Jaewoo laughs while the boy stares, wondering when they will ever eat all those treats. Sparkling with interest, the brown-haired boy spots something delicious and comments on how yummy it looks. The black-haired boy looks back with a neutral expression, watching his younger brother's excitement with quiet observation. Close-up of the price tags shows various snacks costing 2,000 won, highlighting the cost of Jaewoo's shopping spree. A rhythmic rummage sounds as the black-haired boy digs into his jacket pocket, searching for something hidden inside. A sudden clench sounds as the boy balls his hand into a tight fist, his expression becoming surprisingly serious. The older boy warns his brother that chocolate will rot his teeth, prompting an indignant defensive response about hygiene. A firm grab sounds as the boy tries to stop the purchase, insisting that the snacks are bad for health. Chibi Jaewoo crosses his arms in deep thought, now feeling even more motivated to buy the treat for the boy. Jaewoo announces it is time to head home, leaving the younger boy looking completely exhausted and defeated in the background. Chibi versions of the children appear with halos, highlighting their innocent and sweet nature as they follow the landlord.
The black-haired boy insists he is really strong, wanting to help carry the heavy bags despite his small size.
Jaewoo laughs heartily, his eyes closed as he enjoys the child's earnest and adorable display of strength.
The kind landlord tells the children not to worry and to wait outside while he pays for the groceries.
A weary whoo sounds as Jae-woo stands with hands on hips, feeling a sense of accomplishment after their shopping.
Jae-woo calls out to the shopkeeper, announcing that he is ready to check out with his full bag of supplies.
The scene shifts to the rooftop of the traditional house at sunset, signaling that it is finally time for dinner.
A steaming and sparkling spread of soup, rice, and side dishes is served on the table, looking incredibly appetizing. A steam sounds as the black-haired Moojin sits at the table with an open shirt, looking healthy and content.
Jae-woo offers a sharp glare, reminding his guest that he seemed perfectly fine with the meal served the previous day.
Jae-woo turns his head with a proud expression, claiming the delicious meal was a result of his own cooking.
Moojin smiles with a sense of intrigue, asking the orange-haired man where exactly he learned to cook so well.
Stepping forward, Jae-woo casually explains that his culinary skills are just a hobby he picked up over time.
Moojin rests his chin on a gloved hand, looking at Jae-woo with a serious and deeply contemplative expression. A tilt sounds as Jae-woo tilts his head in confusion, wondering why the guest is staring at him so intensely.
Moojin prepares to take a drink from a small cup, his lips parted in a slight, mysterious smile.
A close-up reveals the sharp and focused gaze of the black-haired man as he continues to observe his host. Holding the white cup, Moojin's grin widens as he prepares to make a sudden and surprising proposal.
A loud and jagged shout of shock fills the air as Jae-woo reacts to a preposterous suggestion.
Looking up from his seated position, Moojin coolly offers to pay Jae-woo any amount he wants for his service. Jae-woo's inner monologue panics, horrified by the thought of being hired as a personal chef for such a man. A hem sounds as a blushing Jae-woo clears his throat, politely but firmly declining the unexpected job offer.
Against a background of messy lines, Jae-woo's thoughts race as he considers how far away the man's house is.
Moojin lets out a knowing smirk, asking the landlord if he is even aware of where his house is located.
Breaking into a cold sweat, Jae-woo insists he is the type of person who requires a taxi for any trip.
Moojin leans back with a satisfied grin while the orange-haired man stands nearby, looking completely exhausted and flustered. Moojin's expression turns sharp and predatory, reminding Jae-woo that he is currently asking him very nicely. Beads of sweat roll down Jae-woo's face as he desperately suggests that many other people can cook well.
Looking away with a pained expression, Jae-woo remains silent under the weight of Moojin's dark and threatening aura.
Moojin pulls the landlord close, looming over him while commanding Jae-woo to be a good boy and listen.
A close-up focus on Jae-woo's bandaged neck highlights the physical vulnerability he feels during the tense confrontation. Paralyzed by the proximity, Jae-woo's inner monologue admits that his mind has gone completely blank in his fear.
Jae-woo's eyes widen in desperation, his face pale as he searches for any way to turn the man down.
The doorway reveals the black-haired Hyunjin, who watches the scene with a look of pure, cold suspicion. A pull sounds as Jae-woo is suddenly yanked backward, his face flushing a deep red from the sudden movement.
A glare sounds as Hyunjin glares fiercely at Moojin, demandingly asking what he thinks he is doing to Jae-woo. A raise sounds as Moojin casually lifts his gloved hand, acting completely unbothered by the other man's angry interruption.
Hyunjin stands protectively by Jae-woo, who awkwardly tries to explain that Moojin simply liked the food he served.
Jae-woo looks down with a furrowed brow, feeling the immense pressure of the standoff between the two men.
Looking up with a flustered and blushing face, Jae-woo tries to regain his composure after the terrifying encounter.
Hyunjin explains to the landlord that Iseok Finance is a dangerous company founded and run by violent gangsters.
Moojin watches with a neutral expression as Hyunjin warns that these people stop at nothing to get money.
Dark energy swirls around Moojin as he realizes Hyunjin knows his true identity, finding the man incredibly annoying.
Moojin's inner thoughts seethe with frustration, believing Jae-woo would have already submitted if Hyunjin hadn't interfered.
Visualizing Hyunjin as a nuisance, Moojin decides that any rats getting in his way must be permanently disposed of.
A squeeze sounds as Moojin's gloved hand crushes a paper, vowing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants.
Moojin crosses his arms and lets out a sigh, deciding to let the matter go for the moment.
In a chibi vision, Jae-woo looks dazed and confused, struggling to process the chaotic events of the evening. Jae-woo offers a bright and cheerful smile to Hyunjin, promising to set the table for a fresh meal. Looking down at the floor, Jae-woo notices something odd and asks Hyunjin what is wrong with his stance. Blushing a deep red, Hyunjin barks at Jae-woo to stop worrying about others and get some much-needed rest. Hyunjin looks away with a flustered expression, telling the kind landlord to stop trying to feed him constantly. A gentle hand reaches out to touch Jae-woo's forehead, checking for a fever as the landlord looks up surprised.
Hyunjin's face softens with a blush as he pulls his hand away, softly telling Jae-woo to go sleep.
The small, rare smile touches Hyunjin's lips as he watches Jae-woo, his protective side overcoming his initial irritation. The scene shifts as the black-haired Hyunjin looks back with a stern and focused expression, sensing further trouble. Moojin sits alone on the porch, his eyes narrowed as he remains deep in his own dark and calculating thoughts. Hyunjin approaches the guest outside, his posture tense and his face set in a look of grim determination. Moojin looks up at the newcomer, noting the good timing as he declares they need to have a word. With a wide and insincere grin, Moojin sharply states that he absolutely hates it when people get in his way. Standing firm, the black-haired Hyunjin coldly declares his intent to interfere with the other man's plans. Moojin offers a dark smile, dismissing the threat while commanding Hyunjin to leave Jae-woo alone. Hyunjin begins a fierce warning, but Moojin cuts him off, questioning if he truly understands the situation. The scene focuses on the cold, calculating gaze of Moojin as he observes his rival with intensity. A close-up reveals Moojin's broad chest through his open black shirt, highlighting his imposing physical presence. Moojin mockingly defines the landlord and tenant relationship, leaving Hyunjin visibly seething with growing frustration. A sharp shout sounds as Hyunjin demandingly asks why Moojin cares so much about his business. Moojin retorts that it matters deeply, calling Hyunjin an irritating bug that needs to be crushed. Hyunjin orders him to shut up, while Moojin smugly admits he has never been the obedient type. Moojin's gloved hand reaches forward with predatory grace, heightening the tension of their standoff. Dark energy swirls as Moojin addresses the black-haired man by his full name, Yoo Junhyun. A smirk sounds as Moojin enjoys the look of shock on Junghyun's face after revealing his knowledge. A casual wave sounds as Moojin takes his leave, while Junghyun watches him go with silent suspicion. In another room, the orange-haired Jae-woo wonders if the guest has finally left him in peace. Turning his head, the bandaged Jae-woo remains confused by the sudden and quiet departure of the men. Crouched in a dark alley, Hyunjin is overcome with stress as he reflects on his past struggles. Voices drift through the air at a busy construction site, announcing that someone is there for Hyunjin. Wearing a hard hat and safety vest, Hyunjin looks up in confusion at the unexpected workplace visit. From a low angle, a mysterious visitor approaches the young worker, casting a long shadow over him. An older man with a friendly yet weary smile greets Hyunjin, looking pleased to have found him. Shocked, Hyunjin stares at the man, barely able to believe that his own father has appeared there. The father reaches out warmly, but Hyunjin remains stiff and wary of the man's sudden, suspicious kindness. Hyunjin demands to know how he was located, while the father offers a vague and evasive explanation. The older man suggests a meal together, but Hyunjin delivers a cold and immediate rejection. A grit sounds as Hyunjin's teeth clench while his father insists he only wants to be helpful.
Hyunjin shouts with indignation, questioning the man's sudden and unearned claim to being a father.
A soft tap sounds as the older man touches his son's shoulder, trying to bridge the gap.
A smack sounds as Hyunjin angrily rejects the touch, shouting that a real father wouldn't behave this way.
Hyunjin demandingly asks how the man found his workplace, sensing a deeper and more dangerous secret. The father insists he would always know where his child is, his expression becoming slightly more serious.
Hyunjin calls him a useless wreck, reminding him that he only acts like a father when convenient.
Sweat beads on the older man's face as he struggles to maintain his facade under his son's fury.
The truth dawns on Hyunjin, who realizes with horror that his father has borrowed money once again.
The father claims the lenders just gave him the money, while Hyunjin looks on with pure exasperation.
Admitting he gambled everything away, the man reveals the lenders provided him with Hyunjin's work address.
Desperate, the father defends the dangerous gangsters, while Hyunjin is nearly paralyzed by the news.
Hyunjin wonders why anyone would lend to such a man and why his location was revealed. A sudden, chilling realization hits Hyunjin as he begins to connect the dots of the trap.
Back in the present alleyway, a defeated Hyunjin hides his face in his arms as evening falls.
A man in a brown suit greets him warmly, mockingly referring to the struggling worker as a valued client. The debt collector smiles, offering to share both good and bad news about Hyunjin's current situation. Looking up with a fierce glare, Hyunjin waits in tense silence for the man to continue his explanation. The man in the floral shirt expresses relief at finally leaving the steep slopes of the slums. A weary sigh sounds as Hyunjin prepares for the worst, his gaze fixed on the gloating collector. The suited man announces that the debt case has officially been transferred to dangerous higher-ups. Hyunjin's eyes widen in shock as he processes the terrifying implications of the debt's new ownership. The collector confirms that the total debt has increased, much to Hyunjin's disbelief and growing horror. With an insincere smile, the man explains that Hyunjin's father has borrowed a vast sum yet again. The collector notes that lending is always profitable as long as they have ways to get paid. A firm clench sounds as Hyunjin balls his hand into a fist, disowning his father in his anger. The man in the floral shirt mocks Hyunjin, reminding him of his inescapable family ties and blood relation.
A chilling close-up captures the collector's predatory gaze as he asks if Hyunjin truly expects an easy escape.
Collapsed in a dark alleyway, Hyunjin listens in horror as the man suggests he sell his body for profit.
Paralyzed by the terrifying proposal, the black-haired Hyunjin watches as his tormentor casually bids him good luck. Despair consumes Hyunjin as he questions if his exhausted and ragged body truly holds such high monetary value. Looking up with a weary and defeated expression, Hyunjin wonders if he could ever pay off the outrageous debt.
Soft white clouds drift across a peaceful blue sky, contrasting with the grim realization that another disaster has struck. A heartwarming memory shows Jaewoo smiling brightly alongside Hyunjin's two young, blushing little brothers in the sunny outdoors. Violent, churning ocean waves serve as a metaphor for the overwhelming pressure pulling Hyunjin deeper into hopeless despair. Visualizing his own surrender, the black-haired man drifts through deep, silent waters while bubbles escape his parted lips. A creak sounds as Hyunjin returns home at sunset, greeted by a cheerful Jaewoo who stops hanging laundry. Radiating warmth and kindness, the orange-haired landlord offers a wide smile while asking if his tenant is hungry. A sudden flinch sounds as Hyunjin reacts to Jaewoo innocently inquiring about the missing lunch containers from his workday.
A startled sounds as Jaewoo watches the exhausted man struggle to explain why he forgot his belongings at work. Tears stream down Hyunjin's blushing face, prompting a worried Jaewoo to ask what could have possibly happened today.
Moving closer, the kind landlord gently cups Hyunjin's face and tenderly tells the weeping man to stop crying.
Jaewoo pulls the taller man into a tight, comforting embrace, offering silent support against the backdrop of the sunset.
Sobbing uncontrollably, the black-haired man leans his head against Jaewoo's shoulder as his emotional walls finally crumble away.
A hug sounds as Hyunjin clings to the landlord, confessing that his crushing debt has only grown even larger. Crying out in agony, Hyunjin laments his shattered dream of living a normal life in an unforgiving world.
A clutch sounds as Hyunjin's hand grips the back of Jaewoo's clothes, his mind wandering toward a dark solution.
A freeze sounds as Hyunjin considers the collector's horrific suggestion, wondering if selling his body is his only option. Grabbing the man's shoulders, a frantic Jaewoo shouts at Hyunjin to never consider doing something so self-destructive. With tears still falling, the black-haired man questions if a broken person like himself has any other purpose left. A grit sounds as Jaewoo looks on with shock and pain, his expression hardening as he reaches a sudden decision. In a shocking outburst, the orange-haired landlord commands Hyunjin to sell himself to him instead of the gangsters. Stunned into silence, the teary-eyed man stares at Jaewoo, unable to process the landlord's unexpected and bold demand. Looking down in confusion, Hyunjin wonders if the kind landlord is also after his body for the same reasons. Recalling Jaewoo's past kindness, the man believes he has discovered a dark motive and decides he must push away. With a sad, blushing smile, Hyunjin asks if Jaewoo is truly fine with having someone as troubled as him. Looking genuinely puzzled by the question, the orange-haired man confirms his unwavering support with a bright, curious expression. A slap sounds as Jaewoo makes a sharp gesture, indignantly telling the other man not to dare think such things. Fuming with anger, the landlord shouts that considering something so degrading is beneath a person of Hyunjin's character. Jaewoo huffs with a blushing face, quickly clarifying that his previous offer was not meant in an indecent way. Still confused, the black-haired man points out that Jaewoo specifically asked him to sell himself to the landlord. A droop sounds as Jaewoo clarifies he meant physical labor, lecturing the stunned man to have more wholesome thoughts. Looking away with a sweat bead, Hyunjin admits that even constant physical labor barely covers the interest on his debt. A whew sounds as a chibi Jaewoo reassures him that he will surely pay everything off eventually. A clasp sounds as the landlord takes Hyunjin's wrist, insisting they go inside to eat a proper hot meal. Softening under the landlord's care, a blushing Hyunjin watches the orange-haired man with a look of quiet, growing affection. Proudly presenting a large platter, a beaming Jaewoo announces a special dinner of crispy, golden brown fried chicken. The two young brothers appear at the door, excitedly calling out for Hyunjin and welcoming him back home. Crouching down, one of the kids enthusiastically describes the different flavors of chicken they prepared for the evening. Standing tall with his hands on his hips, Jaewoo laughs heartily while celebrating the delicious feast they made together. Hyunjin stares at the food in disbelief, the warm and inviting aroma of the chicken finally breaking his somber mood. Taking a bite, the black-haired man blushes with satisfaction, his cheeks full as he enjoys the comforting home-cooked meal. A pass sounds as a cold, golden can of beer is handed over to accompany the savory fried chicken. Jaewoo encourages his friend to try a sip, insisting that the cold drink is the perfect pairing for their dinner. An ah sounds as the landlord takes a refreshing gulp, looking completely delighted by the simple, happy evening. Surrounded by the kids and his friend, a blushing Jaewoo cheers with his beer, finally bringing peace to Hyunjin.
Jaewoo reminisces about his friends begging him to open a chicken restaurant while enjoying a cold beer.
The orange-haired man recalls the joy of frying large batches of chicken and hosting all his friends. Looking pensive, Jaewoo admits he can no longer remember the names of his supposedly close former friends. Holding his drink, a chibi Jaewoo frowns while feeling certain he used to be much taller than this. Blushing deeply, the orange-haired landlord asks the black-haired Hyunjin if his earlier proposal was truly serious. Looking flustered, Jaewoo suggests they rephrase his offer, while a confused Hyunjin asks what they should call it.
Jaewoo points a finger upward, firmly proposing that his financial support be considered help with the debt.
The orange-haired man confidently claims to be wealthy, much to the surprise of his debt-ridden tenant. Sitting across from him, Hyunjin skeptically points out that a wealthy person wouldn't live in the hillside slums. Laughing with closed eyes, Jaewoo reveals that his grandmother was a successful, self-made woman who saved everything. Outside the hillside home, the night sky frames the story of how Jaewoo inherited his grandmother's lifelong savings.
Blushing, Jaewoo internally apologizes to his grandmother while promising to repay the money he's using for Hyunjin.
Sweat beads on Hyunjin's face as he wonders how he could possibly accept such a massive loan.
Jaewoo urges him to take it, but the black-haired man remains resolute in his refusal of the money.
Drooling slightly, a very drunk Jaewoo leans in as a worried Hyunjin questions why he's chugging beer.
With a flushed face, the intoxicated landlord demandingly asks why his tenant won't just accept the financial help. Leaning his head down in a drunken stupor, Jaewoo repetitively insists on paying off Hyunjin's crushing debt. Looking conflicted, the black-haired man asks how Jaewoo will survive if he gives his inheritance to someone else. A dun sounds as a determined Jaewoo lifts a large, heavy basin to prove his physical capability. Hyunjin stands stunned, watching the small man lift the basin while noting that even young Hyunwoo can manage it.
Touching his chin, a smiling Hyunjin realizes that his hopeless life might not be over just yet.
The black-haired man looks up curiously as the shadow of the approaching orange-haired landlord falls over him. Jaewoo points at himself with a blushing face, his expression full of drunken, sudden boldness.
Closing his eyes, the blushing Jaewoo pulls Hyunjin into a sudden, soft kiss that leaves the other man frozen.
A wide, joyful smile spreads across Jaewoo's face as he reflects on the closeness of the moment. Shocked and blushing furiously, Hyunjin covers his mouth while processing the unexpected physical contact from his friend. Tense silence follows the kiss as Hyunjin remains motionless, his hand still lingering near his own lips.
Looking serious, Jaewoo rests his hand on his chin as he enters a deep state of ponderous thought.
A snooze sounds as Jaewoo eventually drifts into a peaceful, drunken sleep on his yellow pillow. Hovering over the sleeping man, Hyunjin watches him with an unreadable expression and a steady, focused gaze. A chibi Jaewoo looks toward the viewer, playfully questioning the true nature of the relationship they now share.
A swipe sounds as Hyunjin wipes his mouth, wondering why the landlord acts so strangely when he's drunk.
A stroke sounds as the black-haired man reaches out to gently brush his hand against Jaewoo's forehead.
Leaning in close, Hyunjin whispers that there will be no more drinking, receiving a sleepy murmur in response. A peeved sounds as Hyunjin breaks into a small, amused laugh while watching the snoring landlord. Blushing slightly, the black-haired man looks on with a curious expression, questioning his own feelings for his friend. Laying down beside the sleeping Jaewoo, Hyunjin refuses to take the money, but finds himself smiling nonetheless.
The stars trail across the night sky above the house as Hyunjin prepares to care for the sleeping drunkard.
An sounds as a pair of hands grip the blue blanket tightly during a difficult awakening.
Clutching his throbbing head,
a miserable Jae-woo sits up in bed and wonders how much he drank last night. Pulling at his orange hair, Jae-woo realizes he's a total lightweight who remembers nothing after the very first beer.
The wall clock shows it is nearly 3 in the afternoon, making Jae-woo panic over how much he overslept.
A slide sounds as the tall, slender Jae-woo steps out of the room to find the house quiet. The two younger brothers greet Jae-woo with bright smiles, happy to see that their landlord is finally awake.
Puzzled, Jae-woo asks why the boys aren't at school, only for them to cheerfully remind him it's the weekend.
Looking around, the orange-haired man asks about Hyunjin's whereabouts and learns that his friend has already gone to work.
A turn sounds as the boys lead Jae-woo to some soup that Hyunjin specifically left for his hangover.
A rush sounds as Jae-woo frantically insists on setting the table himself, refusing to let the children help.
With tears of shame streaming down his face, Jae-woo begs the boys to let him do the chores himself.
The orange-haired man reflects on his own embarrassment, determined not to let children serve an adult with a hangover.
Jae-woo appreciates the slightly bland egg drop soup Hyunjin made him for his hangover.
Blushing with delight, the orange-haired man enjoys the simple, home-cooked meal.
Jae-woo plans a grocery trip with the kids to stock up on side dishes after their chicken feast.
Looking at his shattered screen, the man realizes he desperately needs to purchase a new phone. A series of huff sounds follow Jae-woo as he struggles with a frustrating task.
Straining while pulling a heavy cart, Jae-woo fumes over the delivery service refusing to help him.
The orange-haired man motivates himself by recalling when he successfully dragged a person up the hill. Startled by a presence, Jae-woo turns around with a confused expression.
A da-dun sounds as the tall, black-haired Hyunjin suddenly appears behind the struggling landlord.
Surprised and sweating, Jae-woo greets his friend while still gripping the cabbage-filled cart. Hyunjin offers a calm greeting, his steady gaze fixed on the overworked man. Despite Jae-woo's polite refusal, the black-haired man insists on helping with the heavy load.
Shrugging off the help, Jae-woo boasts about his strength while blushing with pride.
Silence falls as Hyunjin places his hand on the cart, ready to take over the burden.
Shocked and blushing, Jae-woo questions if he really did something unexpected during his drunken state.
Panicking, the orange-haired man wonders if he committed any other embarrassing acts while intoxicated.
With a calm and straightforward expression, Hyunjin simply replies that nothing else happened. Jae-woo presses for confirmation, but Hyunjin firmly maintains his story that there were no other incidents. Feeling utterly drained, a chibi Jae-woo slumps over as his soul humorously escapes his mouth. Against the backdrop of a soft sunset, Jae-woo feels a lingering sense of uncertainty despite the relief. Walking side by side, the two men return home and call out for the children to join them. Beaming with excitement, Jae-woo presents a brown paper bag and encourages the kids to see the surprise. The landlord proudly announces he bought donuts, much to the joy of the two waiting boys.
With a bright smile, Jae-woo offers a bright donut to Hyunjin to enjoy.
A nom sounds as Hyunjin leans in to take a bite directly from the donut Jae-woo is holding. Stunned into silence, Jae-woo and the children watch in confusion as Hyunjin casually eats the treat. The boys loudly question why the black-haired man is eating the landlord's donut in such a way.
Hyunjin explains his hands are dirty, prompting the younger boy to ask why he won't just wash them.
Claiming the food would get cold, Hyunjin provides a shaky excuse that the little boy surprisingly accepts. A pew sounds as the landlord and the black-haired child exhale in unison, exhausted by the logic. Another nom sounds as Hyunjin continues to enjoy the donut with a quiet, satisfied expression.
Energized and determined, Jae-woo prepares for a major cooking project while the family watches.
Hyunjin asks for clarification as the orange-haired man excitedly confirms he is making a large batch of kimchi.
Presenting the pile of fresh greens, Jae-woo claims this will sustain the four of them through the winter. Hyunjin pauses with a surprised look, questioning the inclusion of himself in the landlord's long-term plans. Smiling warmly, Jae-woo reaffirms that he truly meant all four of them living together. Deeply moved and blushing, Hyunjin listens as Jae-woo lists every member of their new makeshift family. Jae-woo starts listing the many steps involved in the kimchi-making process, feeling the weight of the task. Hyunjin shouts an offer to help, his face full of determination to assist his friend. Excitedly, the two younger brothers jump in and insist on helping with the cooking as well. A touched sounds as Jae-woo's eyes soften and he blushes, overwhelmed by his friend's kindness. Heartened by the support, the orange-haired man pats the boys' heads while feeling deeply appreciated. Looking up, Hyunjin begins to ask a question but reverts to addressing the landlord formally as Sir. Irritated, Jae-woo demands to be called by his name instead of the stiff, formal title. Hyunjin asks if Jae-woo finds little kids cute, catching the landlord completely off guard. Leaning in close, the orange-haired man excitedly asks Hyunjin to repeat the second part of his sentence. Tilting his head with a tilt sound, a confused Hyunjin repeats the question about kids being cute. Jae-woo frantically clarifies that he wants to hear his name being used again, not the question about children. Finally understanding, the black-haired man softly says Jae-woo while maintaining a steady gaze. Overflowing with happiness, a blushing Jae-woo thinks to himself that his name has never sounded sweeter. A chibi Hyunjin reminds Jae-woo that the landlord was the one who insisted on being called by name. Returning to adulthood, Jae-woo blushes while asking his friend if there is anything specific he wants to eat. Looking slightly bewildered, the black-haired man repeats the question about food as he processes the sudden offer. Determined to make the day special, a blushing Jae-woo strikes a pose and refuses to let the moment go to waste. A ha-ha sounds as Hyunjin breaks into a warm, blushing smile and admits he enjoys anything Jae-woo cooks. Overwhelmed by the sweet compliment, the orange-haired man is moved to tears by his friend's kind words. Returning to their chibi forms, Jae-woo suggests a meat dish, looking up at Hyunjin with wide, expectant eyes. Hyunjin lists several delicious chicken options, causing Jae-woo to break into a wide, excited grin. With a joyful expression, Jae-woo settles on spicy braised chicken as the perfect choice for their upcoming dinner. Looking toward the sunset, the orange-haired man plans to finish brining his cabbage before starting the meal. Hyunjin's expression turns serious as he reminds the landlord that his previous question about children remains unanswered. Looking puzzled, Jae-woo scratches the back of his head and asks for a reminder of the specific question. A chibi Jae-woo enthusiastically confirms that he indeed finds little children to be incredibly cute. The landlord gushes over how well-behaved the younger brothers are, while Hyunjin listens with a quiet expression. Reflecting on his friend's nature, Jae-woo notes that even the hard-working Hyunjin is still quite young and small. The black-haired man asks if Jae-woo thinks he is cute as well, since he is also relatively little. Furious and blushing, Jae-woo shouts that he isn't small, only for Hyunjin to calmly point out their height difference. Feeling targeted by the comment, Jae-woo huffs and wonders why his friend is suddenly being so blunt. Hyunjin asks if the landlord is sensitive about his height, but Jae-woo dismissively waves the conversation away. The black-haired man stares intently, his steady gaze lingering on Jae-woo as the atmosphere grows quiet. Standing alone in the kitchen, Jae-woo ponders the evening ahead while surrounded by his cooking supplies. Pointing at a basket of fresh vegetables, Jae-woo is relieved to find he already has everything needed for dinner. A hesitate sounds as Hyunjin lingers nearby, prompted by Jae-woo's sharp warning to stay out if he mentions height. Looking genuinely dejected, the black-haired man softly explains that he only wanted to offer his help. Seeing Hyunjin's timid reaction, Jae-woo immediately feels guilty for being so snappy and wonders if he overreacted.
A nod sounds as Hyunjin approves of the meal preparation, standing close behind a smiling, blushing Jaewoo.
The black-haired man asks if Jaewoo is truly aware of something, catching the orange-haired landlord off guard.
With a soft and affectionate smile, Hyunjin tells Jaewoo just how cute he truly is.
Misinterpreting the comment as another dig at his height, a flustered Jaewoo sighs and grumbles in protest.
A ha-ha sounds as Hyunjin laughs, clarifying that he meant something entirely different by his compliment.
The scene shifts abruptly to a towering, modern office building standing tall against a bright, cloudy sky.
Inside the office, a man in a white shirt confirms he has brought everyone as requested by his boss.
In a darkened room, several bound and gagged men sit helplessly as a voice greets them with chilling familiarity.
Looking menacingly calm, a dark-haired man in a suit rests a pipe on his shoulder and smiles at his captives.
MMM and URP sound as the terrified captives struggle against their gags while their captor promises a quick end. The suited man laughs, mockingly suggesting that the traitors should have used their knives more effectively.
Leaning in close, the man coldly notes that a deeper wound would have saved them all from this current pain.
A jagged ack sounds as blood spatters across the white background, signaling a violent turn of events. A creak sounds as the man, now with blood on his face, calls out for his subordinate, Dong-soo.
Wiping his forehead, the boss leans back and asks if Dong-soo has completed the investigation he requested. Dong-soo reports that the target, Hyunjin, is currently working various labor-intensive jobs to make ends meet.
Rubbing his neck, the boss listens intently before asking for information regarding the other guy in the house.
Looking slightly nervous, Dong-soo begins to divulge the details he discovered about the orange-haired landlord.
Dong-soo reveals that Jaewoo is known as a neighborhood shut-in who was once an aspiring idol trainee.
Intrigued by the unexpected detail, the boss repeats the term idol trainee with a sharp, calculating look.
Dong-soo continues the report, noting that there is some even more recent information regarding the man's activities. Ha sounds as the boss reacts with amusement to the news that Jaewoo is currently preparing homemade kimchi.
The dark-haired boss closes his eyes, processing the mundane nature of the target's quiet domestic life.
The boss reflects on the irony of people living normal, seasonal lives within the struggling hillside slums. A vision of an elderly woman making kimchi appears, highlighting the contrast between the underworld and domestic reality.
Jaewoo feels a sudden tickle in his ear and wonders if someone is gossiping about him.
Turning back to the stove, the orange-haired man realizes his pot is already at a rolling boil.
A close-up reveals a glistening, steaming bowl of spicy braised chicken topped with fresh green onions. Wearing a monster-themed oven mitt, Jaewoo cheerfully asks the children if they can handle spicy food.
The two boys boast about their love for spice, prompting a proud Jaewoo to praise their maturity.
Hyunjin offers a sincere thanks for the meal, making a blushing Jaewoo smile brightly in return.
Tears well up as the boys realize the food is much hotter than expected, their mouths burning.
Jaewoo quickly presents a bowl of fluffy steamed eggs, promising it will help neutralize the intense heat.
Letting out an ah sound, the black-haired child happily eats a spoonful and enjoys the cooling relief.
A jolt sounds as the boys express surprise and curiosity about a dish called boiled pork.
Jaewoo reflects on the boys' difficult past, feeling a deep warmth and sympathy for their newfound family.
Raising his fist, a joyful Jaewoo declares a boiled pork party, which the children excitedly join.
Watching the scene, Hyunjin feels guilty for resting, but can't help appreciating the peaceful domestic moment.
Seeing how much fun his brothers and Jaewoo are having, the black-haired man decides to relax.
Later that evening, Jaewoo sits comfortably with the children, providing a sense of security and belonging.
Hyunjin stands at the door, informing the group that it is time for bed in their own room.
Jaewoo gently suggests the boys sleep there, holding the brown-haired child as a soft cling sounds.
While Hyunjin worries about creating bad habits, Jaewoo insists there is plenty of space for everyone.
The orange-haired landlord explains his plan to renovate Hyunjin's room since the heater is currently broken. Jaewoo suggests they all share his room temporarily, leaving the black-haired man visibly flustered and blushing.
Dismissing the hesitation, Jaewoo gives the bed a pat and tells Hyunjin to go wash up.
A snooze sounds as Jaewoo and the younger boy fall fast asleep, tucked safely into the bed. An open sounds as Hyunjin lies awake in the dark, his gaze fixed on the sleeping landlord.
The black-haired boy whispers to Hyunjin, asking if he is upset about them ignoring his earlier instructions.
Hyunjin calmly questions why he would ever be mad at them, his expression soft and patient.
The boy admits he felt guilty for not sleeping in their assigned room, as they were told.
With a tender smile, Hyunjin comforts the child, gently cupping his face while the boy relaxes.
Nearby, Jaewoo continues to sleep soundly, his cheeks flushed with a peaceful, warm glow.
Hyunjin's eyes remain locked on Jaewoo, his silent observation filled with a complex, lingering intensity.
Letting out a quiet hee-hee, the black-haired boy smiles knowingly as he watches his older brother.
Sitting alone at the table, Hyunjin rests his chin on his hand, lost in deep, contemplative thought.
The black-haired man acknowledges that Jaewoo is a truly good person as he grapples with his feelings.
A yawn sounds as Jaewoo wakes up the next morning, stretching while Hyunjin watches from behind.
Jaewoo notices his friend is already awake, and a thirsty Hyunjin confirms he has been up.
The orange-haired man takes a long drink from a water bottle, unaware of the tension building.
Hyunjin catches Jaewoo off guard by asking if there is something he needs to say. Looking resolute, the black-haired man confirms he has something to say, holding Jaewoo's rapt attention.
A shocked, "Huh?" escapes Jaewoo as he stares at Hyunjin, nearly dropping his large water bottle. Stuttering in confusion, the orange-haired man frantically asks what could possibly be on Hyunjin's mind.
The two men face each other in a quiet room, the air thick with unspoken emotions and anticipation.
Hyunjin maintains a calm, almost serene smile as he prepares to address the flustered landlord. A hand reaches out to cover Jaewoo's eyes, plunging his world into a sudden, expectant darkness.
In a bold move, Hyunjin leans in close to the blinded Jaewoo, the distance between them vanishing.
Memory fragments show Jaewoo tenderly touching Hyunjin's face, highlighting the deepening bond between the two.
Standing alone under the night sky, Hyunjin questions his own actions and the intensity of his heart.
He reflects on how his initial hatred for Jaewoo has transformed into a kindness he cannot ignore.
Hyunjin fears that being together will only bring Jaewoo misery, yet he feels unable to walk away.
Reaching out toward the stars, the black-haired man admits he is powerless to stop his growing obsession.
A metaphorical vision depicts them submerged together, expressing a desire to uncover every hidden depth of Jaewoo.
Clutching his chest, Hyunjin wonders if this overwhelming ache is what it means to cherish someone.
A hand lifts a smartphone as the owner reflects on a lifetime of holding back their true feelings.
Under the dark night sky, a phone call confirms an immediate return to work at the quiet hillside residence. Jaewoo sleeps peacefully beside the children, a gentle smile gracing his face as the morning light begins to filter in. Waking up with a deep blush, the orange-haired man admits he couldn't sleep with so much weighing on his mind. Deciding to be productive, Jaewoo resolves to check on his pickled cabbages now that he is finally awake. Tasting a crisp piece of cabbage, the landlord is pleased to find they have pickled perfectly for his kimchi. Preparing for a long day of labor,
Jae-woo stretches and psychs himself up to begin the intense seasoning process. Sitting in the courtyard, the orange-haired man dons bright red gloves and begins the meticulous task of preparing the vegetables. A sudden, sharp clank echoes through the yard, causing Jae-woo to look up with a start of surprise.
The black-haired man arrives home, his steady presence immediately shifting the quiet morning atmosphere as he approaches his friend.
Blushing deeply, Jae-woo offers a nervous smile and asks if Hyunjin has already returned from his overnight work shift.
Confirming his return, Hyunjin urges the landlord to go inside and rest since he has been working all night.
The black-haired man insists on staying to help, crossing his arms firmly while dismissing any concerns about his own fatigue.
Relenting, Jae-woo hands over a pair of gloves and warns that the water is quite cold for the task.
Standing close together, the two men prepare to work on the kimchi, the air thick with a lingering, unspoken tension.
An awkward silence follows as Jae-woo looks away, sweating slightly while trying to navigate the complex emotions between them.
Taking over the stool, Hyunjin begins working on the mountain of cabbage with focused and silent determination.
Still worried about his friend's lack of sleep, the orange-haired man asks if Hyunjin is truly feeling all right.
Hyunjin calmly brushes off the concern, prompting a skeptical reaction from Jae-woo as they continue their domestic labor together.
A rhythmic swish sounds as Jae-woo chops green onions, desperately wanting to address the awkwardness following their recent kiss.
Blushing, Jae-woo finally asks why Hyunjin acted that way last night, unable to directly mention the kiss they shared.
Looking utterly bewildered, a miniature version of the orange-haired man grapples with the confusion of the previous evening's events.
Shrugging dismissively, the black-haired man points out that while he was sober, Jae-woo was the one who was drinking.
Laughing nervously, a flustered Jae-woo wonders if his drunken behavior led to the unexpected and intimate moment they shared. Hyunjin offers a small, knowing smile and advises the landlord to stop drinking, noting his poor tolerance for alcohol. Feeling embarrassed, Jae-woo internally vows never to drink again to avoid losing his dignity or his mind once more.
With the seasoning paste finally completed, the orange-haired man shifts his focus toward preparing a delicious batch of boiled pork.
Jae-woo informs his friend that he is heading into the kitchen to start the meat while Hyunjin continues the kimchi.
The soft boil sounds as the pork simmers in the pot, steam rising as the savory aroma fills the air.
Watching the pot with a hopeful expression, Jae-woo waits for the meal to reach the perfect level of tenderness. A clack sounds as Jae-woo covers the pot, wishing for a successful meal for Woo-hee's first taste of boiled pork.
Hyunjin asks for clarification on the paste application, receiving a cheerful confirmation from the landlord as they work in tandem.
The black-haired man works diligently, his brow furrowed in concentration as he handles the seasoned cabbage leaves with care.
Jae-woo watches his friend from the side, a soft and affectionate blush returning to his cheeks as they share the task.
Catching a sudden sound, the orange-haired man looks back with a puzzled expression, wondering who could be visiting so early.
A swish sounds as Hyunjin continues to spread the paste, calmly referring back to the landlord's previous drunken antics.
Maintaining a serene smile, the black-haired man suggests that such mistakes are normal, though Jae-woo remains internally conflicted.
Frustrated, Jae-woo wonders why Hyunjin would repeat the mistake while sober if it were truly just a drunken accident. As the pair finishes their work in the yard, a conversation about the seasoning continues against the backdrop of their home.
Letting out an exhausted VRGH, Jae-woo stretches his aching back and celebrates the final completion of the arduous kimchi project.
A sudden, firm knock-knock echoes from the front gate, catching both men off guard during their quiet moment.
Both men turn toward the entrance, their expressions filled with curiosity and a touch of apprehension at the unexpected visitor.
The gate opens to reveal a man in a suit who smiles broadly while announcing that it has been quite some time.
Recognition hits Hyunjin instantly. his expression hardening into one of deep suspicion and suppressed anger at the newcomer's appearance.
Jaewoo looks on in shock, his mind racing as he wonders why this dangerous man has suddenly appeared at his home. The suited man maintains a bright, almost mocking smile, his eyes filled with a hidden and calculating intensity as he watches them. Waving a gloved hand, the visitor's presence sends a wave of panic through Jaewoo, who fears for his own safety.
The orange-haired man is visibly shaken, realizing that the man he feared has returned much sooner than he ever anticipated.
Forcing a bright, nervous smile, Jaewoo tries to hide his true hatred for the man who holds his life in his hands.
The suited boss explains he stopped by for kimchi and meat, subtly pressuring the landlord for an invitation inside their home.
A gloved hand reaches out, its bright red color contrasting sharply with the pale, clinical background of the scene. The suited man looks on with a skeptical and questioning expression as he approaches the quiet residence.
Hyunjin's expression is tight with fury as he demands to know the reason for the man's sudden arrival.
Maintaining a mocking and dismissive smile, the boss brushes off the black-haired man's aggressive and hostile questioning. Silence falls as Hyunjin stares down the visitor, his deep-seated suspicion clearly written across his face.
A GRR sounds as tension crackles between the rivals, while a stressed Jaewoo attempts to peacefully intervene. The suited man holds up a large, packed bag of fresh meat as a surprising peace offering for the household.
Jaewoo is stunned by the excessive amount of meat, while the boss remains cheerfully oblivious to the awkwardness. The orange-haired man ponders the boss's strange behavior, noting how out of character this domestic visit seems.
Jaewoo frantically urges everyone to keep it down, desperate to maintain a quiet atmosphere for the children. A rush sounds as Jaewoo brushes past, leaving the two rivals to continue their silent and icy standoff. Refusing to be swayed, Hyunjin bluntly asks for the true purpose behind the suited man's unexpected visit. With a casual shrug, the boss maintains his cover story, seemingly unfazed by the intense distrust directed at him. Suspicion continues to flare between the two men as they exchange heavy, wordless glares in the afternoon light. A soft poke sounds as a metal rod checks the tenderness of the meat simmering in the kitchen. Seeing the results, Jaewoo smiles warmly, satisfied that the savory meal has been prepared to absolute perfection.
Tasting a small piece, the orange-haired man blushes with delight at the rich flavor of the boiled pork.
Humming happily, Jaewoo looks forward to sharing the special feast with Hyunwoo and Woohee after their long day. The landlord calls the children to the table, his cheerful mood a sharp contrast to the outside tension.
A glistening spread of pork and kimchi sits ready as the children react with excited wow sounds.
One of the boys looks up with a curious expression, wondering why Hyunjin hasn't joined them for dinner. A down sound reflects Jaewoo's sudden awkwardness as he tries to explain the current situation to the child. Jaewoo gently encourages the disappointed boy to start eating, promising him that Hyunjin wants him to be happy.
Reaching out with a smile, the landlord offers a fresh wrap, encouraging the children to take the first bite.
The boy takes a bite and lets out a happy delighted by the delicious and comforting homemade flavor. Watching the kids munch their food with such enthusiasm, Jaewoo feels a sense of relief and quiet joy. The orange-haired man warns the children not to eat too fast, fearing they might lose their appetite or choke. Looking confused, the younger boy pauses his meal to ask why speed would ever be a problem for them. With a spark of childish logic, the black-haired child explains that eating fast simply makes the food disappear sooner.
Jaewoo finds the children's logic adorable and assures them there is plenty more meat waiting in the kitchen.
The boys let out a satisfied nom as they continue to savor the special boiled pork feast together. Seeing the children so happy brings a soft, affectionate blush to Jaewoo's face as he watches them eat. Hyunjin questions the seating arrangement, noticing that the children are eating separately from the 3 adults tonight. The suited boss smiles broadly and confirms he has absolutely no problem sharing a meal with the children. Jae-woo lets out an annoyed "geez," clearly finding the suited man's sudden humility and kindness hard to believe. The orange-haired man explains that Hyunjin was the one truly worried about letting the kids see the boss.
A crackle of tension fills the room as the 3 men sit together at the dinner table.
Letting out a soft nom, Jae-woo tries to ignore the awkward atmosphere and focus on his delicious kimchi.
Hyunjin's steady stare remains fixed on his friend, his expression unreadable as they eat in complete silence.
A crunch sounds as the orange-haired man continues eating, feeling the weight of the dual observation on him.
Hyunjin looks at a piece of cabbage with uncertainty, seemingly unsure of how to properly assemble the wrap.
Jae-woo holds up a piece of the vegetable with a bright smile, offering a helpful and friendly demonstration.
With a satisfied nod, the black-haired man confirms the food is amazing, prompting a happy reaction from Jae-woo.
The boss offers a charming smile while subtly requesting that the landlord prepare a special wrap for him.
Stunned, Jae-woo reacts with a shocked "what?" and reminds the man that he is perfectly capable of serving himself. The suited boss maintains a bright smile, playfully insisting he can't make the food as well as Jae-woo. Grumbling about the request, the orange-haired man begins assembling a wrap with radish, garlic, and samjang anyway. Jae-woo holds up an exceptionally large wrap, wondering if the boss can actually manage to eat something so huge. With a happy nom, the boss surprisingly fits the entire massive wrap into his mouth with absolute ease.
Jae-woo watches with disbelief, frustrated that the man still manages to look handsome even with his cheeks stuffed.
While sweating nervously, Jae-woo decides to prioritize making another wrap for Hyunjin over the suited man's needs.
A soft nom sounds as the black-haired man happily accepts the fresh wrap offered by a blushing Jae-woo.
Hyunjin offers a warm, rare smile while complimenting the orange-haired man's exceptional cooking skills.
Totally flustered, Jae-woo offers another wrap while his heart metaphorically leaps out of his mouth in excitement.
The atmosphere shifts as the black-gloved boss firmly grabs Jae-woo's wrist, drawing his attention away from the meal.
Maintaining an intense and possessive gaze, the suited man demands his turn to be served by the landlord.
Jae-woo looks on with a wide-eyed and worried expression, feeling the mounting pressure from the boss's direct request.
The suited man stares back with a cold, calculating look, noting the lack of any real relationship between them. Jae-woo is visibly taken aback, his brow furrowed as he hears about a truly shocking amount of money. With a smug smile, the boss offers a black business card, assuming the landlord discarded the previous one.
Hyunjin returns to the room with a puzzled expression, wondering what could be happening in his brief absence.
A swish sounds as Jae-woo turns with a bright, blushing smile, asking if the children enjoyed their dinner. Hyunjin confirms the children finished their meal, his neutral expression masking his true thoughts about the visitor.
A gloved hand gives a dismissive wave over the orange-haired man's head as the boss prepares to depart.
Hyunjin's expression hardens with suspicion as he questions the real motive behind the suited man's sudden visit. Jae-woo watches his friend walk away, nervously wondering if the boss truly only came for the food. Looking down at the remaining pork, the orange-haired man lets out a sickened sigh, feeling physically overwhelmed. Night falls over the city, the tall apartment building standing silently under a vast and starry sky. A gentle touch on the forehead reveals the orange-haired man's high fever as he lies there sweating profusely. Struggling to stay conscious, a flushed Jae-woo lies weak and feverish against his pillow as the illness takes hold. Hyunjin looks down with a pained and worried expression, informing his friend that they are currently at the hospital.
Chibi memories flash back to Jae-woo passing out, recalling how the black-haired man carried him through the night.
Sitting by the bed, Hyunjin explains that the doctor warned his fever could have become extremely dangerous.
The black-haired man scolds his friend with a worried frown, urging him to start taking better care of himself. Jaewoo offers a weak apology, internally struggling with the overwhelming guilt caused by Hyunjin's constant, selfless kindness.
Seeing Hyunjin's troubled face, Jaewoo wonders if the black-haired man is seriously considering Moojin's mysterious offer.
The orange-haired man feels a swell of affection, touched by how deeply his friend cares for his well-being. Resting quietly, Jaewoo maintains a soft and grateful smile as he watches Hyunjin stay by his side.
Hyunjin looks back with a tender and thoughtful gaze, his usual sternness softened by the quiet moment.
A creak sounds as the gate opens, followed by a relieved flop as Jaewoo collapses onto the porch.
Noticing the sparkle of the clean home, Jaewoo realizes Hyunjin worked hard to tidy up while he was away. Discovering a check, Jaewoo lets out a gasp and debates whether to return the massive sum to Moojin. Walking outside in a white hoodie, Jaewoo admires the sleek finish of his brand new mobile phone. Holding the black business card, the orange-haired man looks miserable as he prepares to make a difficult call.
Jaewoo holds the phone to his ear with a pensive expression, his mind racing with doubt and anxiety.
Closing his eyes tight, the orange-haired man silently begs for the person on the other end to ignore him. Despite his frantic hopes, Jaewoo's expression falls as he realizes the call is about to be answered. The suited man answers with a smug and knowing grin, asking if the landlord has finally made his decision. Stealing his resolve, Jaewoo officially accepts the boss's offer, his expression determined despite his inner turmoil. Moojin's voice instructs him to start the very next day, mentioning that a formal contract will be waiting. Jaewoo agrees to the meeting, his face showing a mix of resignation and lingering uncertainty as the call ends.
The scene shifts to Hyunjin, who offers a rare and incredibly soft smile against a bright, shimmering background.
Standing alone on the brick path, Jaewoo remains focused on the phone that now holds his future.
A gentle blush colors Jaewoo's cheeks as he wishes Hyunjin's number could have been the first one saved.
Standing in the chilly air, Hyunjin watches his breath mist in the cold while realizing winter is approaching.
After a quick rummage through his pockets, Hyunjin pulls out his phone, worried that Jaewoo isn't resting properly.
The black-haired man recalls carrying the sick landlord on his back through the dark, quiet streets the night before.
A heavy thud sounds as a package is dropped, punctuating Hyunjin's deep and somber thoughts about his friend.
Hyunjin remembers how Jaewoo loves feeding others, but often neglects his own hunger to ensure everyone else is happy. In the memory, a blushing Jaewoo waves a hand dismissively, insisting he is full despite barely eating any food. Looking pensive, Hyunjin worries that Jaewoo's selfless nature is the reason he never manages to gain any weight. A low grit sounds as the black-haired man clenches his teeth, frustrated by his current feelings of helplessness. Hyunjin's expression remains grim as he dwells on the name Choi Moojin, sensing a growing threat to his friend. Hyunjin watches with silent dread, unable to bear seeing a dangerous man like Moojin enter Jaewoo's quiet life. Haunted by his lack of influence, the black-haired man feels utterly powerless to protect the person he cares about. With a sudden clench, Hyunjin laments being a broke debtor with absolutely nothing to offer the orange-haired landlord. A sharp buzz vibrates from a phone on the table, prompting the orange-haired man to wonder who is calling. Jaewoo answers the phone with a curious look, surprised to hear Hyunjin's voice on the other end of the line. Smiling warmly, Hyunjin explains that he saved the landlord's number the very day he first moved into the house.
Jaewoo suggests having rice porridge for dinner, urging the black-haired man to take things easy while he recovers.
A loud creak
echoes as the gate opens, signaling a return home just as the sun begins to set.
Blushing softly, the black-haired man calls out to Jae-woo while approaching the house with a rare, gentle smile.
Leaning out the window, Jae-woo notes Hyunjin is home early and hears that he took a day off work. The orange-haired man offers to prepare a meal, checking to see if his friend has managed to eat dinner.
Steam rises with a steady boil as a pot of wholesome rice porridge simmers on the kitchen stove.
Jae-woo decides that a simple vegetable rice porridge will be the perfect, gentle meal for his friend this evening.
Rhythmic chop sounds fill the kitchen as the orange-haired man prepares ingredients that are easy for anyone to digest. With a careful shake, Jae-woo adds just a tiny bit of salt to the steaming, healthy pot of porridge.
The freshly cooked porridge sparkles appetizingly, drawing an impressed wow from the hungry orange-haired landlord. Savoring the meal with a blush, Jae-woo finds the bland flavor comforting and very easy to eat tonight.
With a bright and excited expression, the orange-haired man announces that he has some wonderful news to share.
Jae-woo proudly declares his intention to start working, a determined blush spreading across his cheerful, sweating face. Looking confused and worried, Hyunjin questions why his friend needs to work when he claimed to have money.
A chibi Jae-woo insists that as an adult, he cannot simply keep lazing around the house forever.
The chibi black-haired man looks on with a skeptical and unconvinced expression, sensing that something is being hidden. With a suspicious gaze, the black-haired man asks for the specific location where Jae-woo will be working.
Sweating profusely, the orange-haired man panics internally, wondering what lie he should tell to hide the truth.
Jae-woo forces an enthusiastic expression, trying to sell his Mart story with a desperate and shaky fist pump. Hyunjin's expression darkens with intensity as he demands to know exactly what the orange-haired man just said.
Chibi Jae-woo panics, realizing that telling the truth would lead to an endless lecture from his suspicious friend.
With a forced laugh, Jae-woo lies about working at All-in Mart, relieved when Hyunjin seemingly accepts the fake answer.
The chibi orange-haired man cheers with a tiny heart, celebrating his narrow escape from the difficult truth. Jae-woo assures his friend that the fridge is fully stocked for the children's upcoming meals while he is away. Hyunjin looks back with a lingering blush, his gaze soft yet still somewhat doubtful of the Mart story.
A chibi Jae-woo realizes with a shock that Hyunjin was actually worried about his well-being all along. Standing amidst a turbulent background, Jae-woo reflects on how he is truly different from the office workers he knew. A memory of his previous office job flashes back, recalling his life before he chose to become a freelancer.
The two men face each other in silence, the air thick with unsaid thoughts and mutual concern for one another.
Hyunjin finally yields with a simple, okay, though his eyes betray a deep, lingering worry for his friend.
Chibi Hyunjin remains unconvinced, watching the orange-haired man with a skeptical and half-lidded stare.
Resting in bed with dark shadows of fatigue on his face, Jae-woo appears physically and mentally exhausted.
Sitting up with a pained expression, Jae-woo worries that he might face dire consequences if he doesn't start working.
A firm grip on the handle of a brown bag shows Jae-woo's readiness as he prepares to leave home.
Da dun sounds as the orange-haired man looks up at a massive, modern skyscraper standing tall in the city. Jae-woo stands in awe, feeling as though he has stepped into a completely different and very intimidating world.
A chibi Jae-woo marvels at the elevator, noting how everything looks incredibly clean and sparkling inside and out.
Looking closer, Jae-woo wonders if such luxury is expected for the home of a powerful top-tier character.
The orange-haired man's eyes go wide as he hears a voice that definitely does not belong to Moojin. A tall, unfamiliar man with short brown hair stares back with a neutral and somewhat bored expression.
Sweating with intense panic, Jaewoo wonders if he has accidentally arrived at the completely wrong location today.
Smirking confidently, Moojin looms over the scene with a smug and calculating expression.
Dressed in a crisp white shirt, the black-haired man keeps his arms crossed with intimidating composure.
With his eyes closed in a playful grin, Moojin asks if today is finally contract day.
Tucked behind the tall assistant, Jaewoo's expression is tight with anxiety as he confirms his readiness.
Sweating under the pressure, the orange-haired man remains silent while his internal tension grows.
Moojin offers a devious, welcoming smile, motioning for his guest to step further into his domain.
The two men walk side by side through the cold, ultra-modern hallway of the massive penthouse.
Blushing nervously, Jaewoo reflects on the overwhelming scale of the home belonging to a powerful individual. The pristine living area and kitchen appear hauntingly empty, making Jaewoo wonder if anyone truly lives here. He catches sight of a lonely teddy bear, sparking a vague and distant memory of his past.
Pausing to think, the orange-haired man hopes his fractured memories will eventually return to him.
The luxurious living room stands silent and sterile, filled with expensive furniture but devoid of warmth.
Moojin sits with a stern gaze, his hands clad in black gloves as he awaits the signing. Holding the paper with trembling hands, Jaewoo realizes the gravity of the contract he's about to sign. With a desperate sweat, Jaewoo asks about the repercussions of breaking his word after the deal is done.
Moojin looks back with a sharp, knowing gaze, clearly amused by the landlord's obvious fear.
Forcing a shaky laugh, Jaewoo admits he'd simply like to be aware of the consequences in advance.
Resting his gloved hand on his lap, the black-haired boss coldly dismisses the concern as irrelevant.
Jaewoo's skepticism grows, finding it hard to believe that a man like Moojin would be so simple.
Putting on a brave face, the orange-haired man tries to maintain his composure during the tense negotiation.
Moojin breaks into a wide, bright smile, inviting Jaewoo to add any specific conditions he desires.
A chibi Jaewoo holds up a finger, ready to lay down his own set of firm rules.
Moojin's face darkens as he questions why the landlord thinks he would ever act so dishonorably. Jaewoo laughs brightly, insisting he's just being thorough despite his underlying trust in the boss.
He clearly states his terms, demanding to leave promptly to care for the children waiting at home.
Sitting on the sofa, Moojin points out the kids aren't actually his, but Jaewoo remains stubborn.
The black-haired man falls into deep thought, his gloved hand resting thoughtfully against his chin.
Against a flowery background, Jaewoo offers a soft smile, hoping his conditions will be accepted.
Moojin's expression turns grim as he silently weighs Jaewoo's value against his desire to torment Hyunjin. Taken aback by the sudden shift in mood, Jaewoo watches the boss with a look of uncertainty.
Looking skeptical, Moojin probes deeper into the landlord's reasoning with a narrowed and suspicious gaze.
The tension breaks as Moojin smiles once more, though the warmth doesn't quite reach his eyes. Jaewoo makes one final, urgent request, pleading for the entire deal to be kept secret from Hyunjin.
Images of gambling dice and chips swirl around as Moojin considers the pathetic nature of Hyunjin's father.
Hyunjin appears in a somber vision, trapped by the crushing weight of his family's insurmountable gambling debts.
Jaewoo suggests a lie about a jackpot to spare Hyunjin's pride, his eyes full of desperate concern.
A sudden rhythmic shake of a leg reveals Moojin's impatience as he questions if the lie will work. Looking down with resolve, Jaewoo promises to cook whatever the boss wants in exchange for his cooperation.
Moojin stares back with an unreadable expression, his usual smugness replaced by a moment of quiet intensity.
Holding up 3 gloved fingers, the boss demands total obedience for 3 specific favors in the future.
Chibi Jaewoo panics, imagining the most horrific and extreme demands that a man like Moojin might make.
With a dark and predatory smirk, the black-haired man asks if the landlord accepts the final terms. A heartwarming vision of Hyunjin and his younger brothers serves as a reminder of what's at stake. A heavy, decisive stamp sounds as Jaewoo presses his finger to the paper, officially sealing the deal. Clapping his hands with joy, Moojin celebrates as he officially cuts Hyunjin's massive debt in half.
A busy Chibi Jaewoo lets out a quick rummage through his bag while checking for food preferences.
Ready for work, the orange-haired man stands tall in a red apron with a determined fist pump.
Marveling at the spotless kitchen, Jaewoo is shocked to find a fridge filled with fresh, healthy ingredients.
Holding a carrot and cucumber, Chibi Jaewoo suspects the author made a mistake regarding Moojin's diet. Standing before the open fridge, Jaewoo officially begins his new job as the personal chef for a monster. Moojin watches with a sharp gaze, privately noting that the unfolding situation has become quite amusing to him. Dressed in a bright red apron, Jaewoo asks his new employer about any potential food allergies before starting.
Moojin relaxes on the sleek sofa, while his brown-haired assistant stands nearby with a characteristically neutral expression. The orange-haired chef offers a cheerful and warm smile, eager to prove his worth in the kitchen.
With a mischievous giggle from the kitchen, Jaewoo wonders if Moojin will actually be able to handle this. A pair of hands carefully secures the zipper of a sturdy brown storage bag containing his secret ingredients.
Done! A jar of pungent, fast-fermented soybean paste is presented with dramatic flair for the main course.
The assistant catches a whiff of a strong scent, wondering aloud what that remarkably pungent smell could be.
Boil, boil! A colorful and aromatic stew bubbles enticingly in a bright blue pot on the modern stove.
While Jaewoo cooks, the assistant wonders why his boss ordered a background check on someone who seems so ordinary. Watching the orange-haired man work, the assistant remains skeptical that a simple chef could be considered truly remarkable.
The assistant's realization dawns that cooking such a strong-smelling stew for a man like Moojin is a feat. Confusion grows as the assistant reflects on Moojin's usual preference for luxury over such simple, traditional Korean dishes. Holding a pot lid with an oven mitt, Jaewoo prepares to serve while the assistant suspects a prank.
With a joyful exclamation, Jaewoo announces that the meal is finally ready for everyone to sit and eat.
Hup! Moojin rises from the sofa as Jaewoo politely invites him to enjoy the freshly prepared home-cooked meal. The brown-haired assistant looks surprised when he is unexpectedly invited to sit and join them for the dinner.
Jaewoo looks slightly disappointed, explaining that he purposely prepared a portion large enough for 2 people to enjoy.
Clad in his signature black gloves, Moojin takes a careful and deliberate spoonful of rice to start eating. Slumps in his seat, regretting the decision to eat with Moojin after his previous bad experience.
Blushing with pride, Jaewoo savors the delicious flavor, attributing the success to the high-quality soybean paste he used.
Nom, Moojin quietly savors the meal, and Jaewoo notices that the boss seems to be genuinely enjoying himself. A single bead of sweat rolls down the assistant's face as he observes the highly unusual scene before him. Standing outside the skyscraper, the assistant asks if it was truly okay to hire the orange-haired man today.
The assistant voices his security concerns about letting a relative stranger like Jaewoo into the boss's private penthouse.
Rubbing the back of his neck, the brown-haired man admits that the entire situation feels very odd.
Ha! Lets out a short, confident laugh, seemingly unbothered by his employees' lingering doubts and safety worries.
Moojin decides they should wait and see how things progress, leaving the assistant with no choice but to agree. The scene shifts to a large residential gate as someone announces their long-awaited return home for the evening. Chan Young and Woojin wait by the gate,
recalling Jaewoo's promise that he would be back by the evening.
The brothers sit together on a bench, discussing their worries about Jaewoo's new job and his general safety.
Slump. Chen Young struggles with his homework, prompting his older brother to offer some stern and helpful academic guidance.
Resting his head on the desk, Chan Young wonders if it's possible for Jaewoo to simply stay home instead.
Woojin maintains a mature attitude, reminding his younger brother that working is an unavoidable reality for their family.
Tears stream down the boy's blushing face as he laments how the new job is taking Jaewoo away.
Jaewoo finally arrives home to find the boys having dinner, greeting them with a tired but bright smile.
Rush! The happy children greet him enthusiastically, and Jaewoo praises them for being independent while he was away. Concerned for their safety around the stove, Jaewoo offers to cook a fresh batch of hot soup immediately.
The boys insist the food is already great, with Woojin even offering to bring Jaewoo some rice himself. Against a floral background, Jaewoo laughs warmly and accepts the sweet invitation to eat dinner with the kids.
Hyunjin stands silently by the gate, his expression dark and somber as he watches the family's happy reunion.
The boys invite Hyunjin to join them, but the black-haired man hesitates, appearing deeply lost in his thoughts.
Hyunjin suggests Jaewoo should eat porridge for his health, but the orange-haired man insists he is feeling fine.
Place. Jaewoo serves an array of side dishes, confidently boasting about what a fantastic job he did today.
Despite Jaewoo's defensive attitude, Hyunjin feels a sense of relief knowing his friend had a successful first day.
Beaming with pride, Chan Young declares that Jaewoo is naturally good at everything he chooses to do in life.
As the boys sleep soundly, Jaewoo lies awake, privately questioning if he really did a good job.
Resolving to stop his second-guessing, the orange-haired man determines to see his difficult new commitment through. Under a vast and starry night sky, Jaewoo makes a solemn vow to persevere until the very end. Woojin stands tall against an oppressive and dark background, remaining a silent and intimidating figure in the shadows. Woojin reclines in a pensive silence, his black gloves resting over his crisp white dress shirt.
In the kitchen, the orange-haired chef asks his boss to activate the ventilation fan while he works.
Turning around in his red apron, Jaewoo looks surprised to see his employer awake so early. The black-haired man stares blankly as the chef asks if he wants breakfast served immediately. Chibi Woojin questions if soybean paste stew is on the menu again, prompting an indignant defense from Jaewoo. Woojin reminds his personal chef of his promise to prepare meals that actually taste good. Looking wounded, the orange-haired man wonders aloud if his employer truly finds his cooking unpalatable.
Chibi Jaewoo lets out an exasperated shout, his composure crumbling under the boss's blunt critique.
A heavy silence falls over the room as Woojin watches his chef with a cold, unreadable expression.
Despite the friction, Jaewoo offers a bright, rosy-cheeked smile against a soft, fluffy background.
A lavish spread of home-cooked dishes fills the table, intended for 2 people to share.
Looking down at the meal, Woojin privately considers how bold his new employee has become.
A mechanical whir sounds as Woojin works diligently at his desk, surrounded by stacks of files.
Fury flashes in the boss's eyes as he questions what the orange-haired man is doing now. Confronting the chef, Chibi Woojin is told that Jaewoo must leave every evening to return home.
Wiping away sweat, Jaewoo complains about the heat while Woojin looms over him with an irritated scowl. Poking his head through the door, the boss notes that the sudden silence is equally problematic.
A rhythmic swish sounds as Jaewoo sits on the floor peeling an enormous pile of fresh garlic.
Chibi Woojin stands bewildered, demanding an explanation for the mountain of garlic being prepared in his penthouse.
Beaming with pride, Jaewoo explains he bought the ingredients himself to share with his family later. Woojin offers his credit card for future purchases, but the stubborn chef refuses to rely on him.
Looking back with a smile, the orange-haired man asks what his employer desires for lunch.
Moojin maintains his harsh facade, bluntly stating that the previous meal didn't meet his high standards.
Unfazed by the criticism, Jaewoo laughs and agrees to follow his employer's specific preferences.
Chibi Jaewoo asks about tea, feeling guilty about drinking expensive water, but Moojin curtly declines.
A radiant and genuine laugh escapes the chef, filling the room with a brief moment of warmth.
Holding a large radish, Chibi Jaewoo looks puzzled, wondering if his boss is just being difficult.
The two men stand face to face in a tense standoff, their height difference emphasizing the power gap. Moojin crosses his arms in annoyance while Jaewoo busies himself with various chores in the background. Deep in thought, the chef wonders if the friction between them is rooted in his connection to Hyunjin. He reflects on how his interference may have ruined the first meeting between his friend and the boss. Hyunjin stares at his empty palms, looking somber as he navigates his own internal struggles. Leaning against the counter, Jaewoo lets out a tired sigh as the weight of the day settles. With a sudden spark of determination, the orange-haired man clenches his fist to bolster his resolve.
An older man asks Hyunjin why he stopped bringing those delicious home-cooked lunches to work.
Images of Jaewoo's cheerful face flash through Hyunjin's mind as he thinks of his friend's kindness.
A soft rise sounds as the black-haired man wonders if Jaewoo is adjusting well to his new job.
He considers the long commute to the supermarket where Jaewoo claimed to have found work.
A heavy sigh escapes Hyunjin as he checks his phone, worried about their financial situation and the distance.
He laments how difficult it has become to simply visit his friend amidst their busy schedules.
His introspection is interrupted by a sudden greeting, causing him to look up in surprise.
A man named Park Dong-soo presents a business card, announcing himself as the new representative for Isak Finance. Hyunjin accepts the card with a resigned look, promising to keep up with the monthly interest payments.
Suspicion clouds his expression as he silently fears that his father has caused more trouble. The representative delivers the shocking news that Hyunjin's interest payments have been cut in half. A vision of the orange-haired chef appears as Hyunjin struggles to process the sudden change in fortune.
Stunned and confused, the young man demands to know why his massive bet burden has decreased.
Park Dong-soo explains that his father supposedly hit a jackpot, clearing a large portion of the debt. Hyunjin remains skeptical, finding it hard to believe a man with such bad luck could suddenly win big. A steady step sounds as Hyunjin walks home, resolving to save every extra penny for the future.
Hyunwoo, the brown-haired boy, eagerly shouts for Hyunjin to listen to his exciting news.
Brimming with joy, the boy exclaims that they are finally going to an amusement park this weekend. Woo-hee, the black-haired boy, tells his brother to sleep while Jaewoo encourages them to save their energy. Twirl! Hyunwoo spins happily as he heads to bed, leaving Jaewoo and Hyunjin together in the hallway.
Jaewoo apologizes for the boy's lingering excitement, noting how much Hyunwoo is looking forward to the trip.
Blushing slightly, Hyunjin warmly agrees that they should all go to the amusement park together. Tilting his head, Hyunwoo wonders if it is truly okay for the busy black-haired man to take leave.
Radiant with happiness, Jaewoo announces his plan to purchase 4 tickets so no one is left behind.
Later that night, Hyunjin lies awake in bed, his expression unreadable as he reflects on the upcoming plans. Jaewoo smiles gently at Woo-hee, promising to do whatever the young boy desires during their special outing. The children excitedly make their requests, with Hyunwoo wanting kimbap and Woo-hee asking for a sandwich. A shimmering vision of perfectly prepared sandwiches appears as Jaewoo considers the menu for their lunch. Determined to save Hyunjin money, Jaewoo resolves to pack a delicious lunch instead of buying park food. In the morning, Hyunjin looks impressed, asking if the orange-haired man managed to pack everything by himself. With a proud and affectionate smile,
Jaewoo confirms he poured his heart into every single ingredient.
Chibi Hyunjin offers to help by cutting the fruit, and Jaewoo happily accepts the extra assistance.
A lavish and colorful spread of fruit, kimbap, and sandwiches sits packed and ready for their journey. The family finally arrives at the park, with a beaming Hyunru leading the way into the fun.
Bathed in bright sunlight, the group walks together, their faces filled with anticipation for the day ahead.
Jaewoo questions the need for an expensive pass, but Hyunjin insists that guardians must stay with the kids.
Peak. Jaewoo glances back, tenderly remembering that this is the first amusement park visit for the children.
Holding a red ticket, Hyunjin reflects on his own difficult childhood and the early start of his career. Looking over the park map, Jaewoo suggests starting with gentle rides, fearing roller coasters might be too frightening.
The two boys point eagerly toward the carousel, both agreeing that it should be their very first ride.
They approach the colorful attraction, and Jaewoo agrees that the carousel is a perfect start for the day.
The boys are thrilled to receive animal-themed headbands, showing them off with wide, excited eyes.
Jaewoo holds up another headband, asking the tall black-haired man to lean down so he can put it on.
Hyunjin blushes intensely as he finds himself wearing a cute headband adorned with bear ears and a bow. The two men stand side by side in their matching headbands, sharing a moment of lighthearted and slightly awkward fun. Letting out a soft laugh, Hyunjin follows the group, moving past his embarrassment to enjoy the festive atmosphere.
The carousel horses glisten under the bright lights, waiting for the family to take their seats.
Jaewoo laughs warmly at his friend, insisting the children will enjoy themselves much more if the adults participate.
Hyunwoo and Woohee wave their arms enthusiastically, urging Jaewoo and Hyunjin to hurry and join the ride.
Wow! The kids and Hyunjin settle onto their chosen horses as the carousel begins its slow, rhythmic spin.
Turning his head, Hyunjin checks on the group, asking if everyone is truly enjoying their time.
From his horse behind Hyunwoo, Jaewoo watches the happy scene with a peaceful and contented expression.
Wave! Jaewoo waves cheerfully at his companions, his face glowing with a genuine and radiant smile. Whirl! Despite warnings, Hyunjin turns back on his moving horse, unable to look away from his friend. A sudden flush creeps across Hyunjin's face as his heart begins to race while watching Jaewoo laugh. The group gathers at a carnival stall, focusing intently as Jaewoo tries his hand at a shooting game. Resting at a table, the group discusses their next move, with the boys eager to experience every ride. Shalala! The meticulously prepared lunch is finally unveiled, looking incredibly fresh and appetizing in the sunlight. Gulp! The hungry boys stare at the feast with wide eyes, their mouths watering in anticipation. Nam! Hyunwoo and Woohee dig into the meal, savoring every bite of the delicious home-cooked kimbap and sandwiches. Jaewoo watches the children with a fond smile, telling them to relax and take their time eating. A vibrant close-up highlights the fresh lettuce, egg, and ham layered inside a perfectly crafted sandwich. The kimbap is shown in exquisite detail, showcasing the colorful variety of fillings and careful rolling. Closing his eyes in satisfaction, Jaewoo takes a bite, delighted that his hard work resulted in such flavor.
The orange-haired man asks the kids about their fun and proposes a trip to the zoo next.
Peak! Woohee looks toward Hyunjin with a hopeful expression, asking if he will join them for the zoo. Wearing a cute headband, the orange-haired man pouts while demanding an answer from his quiet friend. Hyunwoo and Woohee beam with pure joy, their faces glowing under their new animal-themed headbands. A massive scream sounds as the park's pirate ship ride swings precariously high against the sunset sky. Nausea overcomes Jaewoo as a tired huff sounds, his dizziness making it hard to stand after the ride.
The children watch with concern as their guardian struggles to recover from the intense motion of the attraction. A vibrant bustle and chatter fill the air as the group navigates through the crowded evening park. Their attention shifts toward a sudden commotion, wondering why so many people have gathered in the distance.
Colorful mascots and a parade performer in a bright red dress wave enthusiastically to the mesmerized crowd.
The children are completely enchanted, their eyes widening as the magical parade passes right before them.
Jaewoo watches from behind, admiring the peaceful silhouette of his friend against the glowing city lights.
A soft glance follows Jaewoo's thoughts as he considers if Hyunjin is truly enjoying this rare family outing. The black-haired man turns back with a calm gaze, his expression softening in the cool evening air. A sudden flinch shakes Jaewoo as their eyes meet, leaving him strangely flustered by the brief, intense connection. A gentle smile spreads across Hyunjin's face as he admits he actually had a wonderful time today. The orange-haired man is momentarily speechless, struck by the unexpected warmth and sincerity in his friend's eyes. Overjoyed by the experience, the boys shout their desires to return to the park again very soon. Jaewoo laughs warmly and promises they will definitely make another trip together in the future. Night falls completely over the amusement park, leaving the carousel to sparkle like a jewel in the dark. Later at home, Jaewoo expresses his gratitude to Hyunjin for carrying the sleeping Woohee all the way back. Looking at the wall clock, the orange-haired man realizes with a start that it is already 10 o'clock. Eager to unwind, Jaewoo invites his friend to share a relaxing beer before they end the day. Despite his usual stoicism, Hyunjin reluctantly agrees to the drink, looking a bit weary from the long trip. Jaewoo stares at his glass in disbelief, finding only a tiny amount of beer poured for him. A heavy gulp sounds as the orange-haired man laments having to follow such strict drinking rules. He questions his place in this world, wondering if he is even allowed to have deeper feelings. Deep in thought, he reflects on his status as an outsider and the fixed destiny of those around him. Determined to enjoy the moment, he chugs his limited drink while Hyunjin watches with a sweat drop of concern. Exhaustion finally takes over, and Jaewoo falls asleep with his head resting peacefully on his friend's shoulder. Park Dong-soo reflects on how much the boss, Moojin, has changed since the new chef arrived. He notes that the once cold penthouse now feels like a real home for the very first time. Although the changes are positive, the assistant admits to feeling a lingering sense of unease about the future. A sharp scoff escapes Director Yoon as he condescendingly questions Dong-soo's sudden curiosity. Fumbling his words, the assistant quickly apologizes and tries to maintain his professional distance from the arrogant director. Narrative boxes describe Director Yoon as a dangerous figure with powerful and terrifying family connections. Moojin's true plan is revealed, showing he is merely humoring the oblivious fool before ruining him completely. A quick swing sounds as the arrogant Director Yoon enters the room with a confident, effortless stride. Moojin offers a handsome and composed smile, masking his cold intentions behind a mask of professional politeness. The director insists he arrived exactly on time, looking down at his subordinate with an air of superiority. Park Dong-soo looks on in shock, internally wondering what the hell is happening with his boss today. Clapping his hands together, Director Yoon expresses a sudden and unsettling fondness for working with the boss. The assistant remains unconvinced, finding the director's easygoing attitude today to be suspicious and completely out of character. Yoon smiles broadly, claiming he simply wanted to have a friendly drink with his favorite business partner. Dong-soo realizes that beneath the charm lies the chilling gaze of a snake, hiding a truly predatory nature. The scene shifts to a peaceful morning as sunlight bathes the quiet courtyard of a traditional house. The boys wave a cheerful goodbye as they head off to school, their spirits high for the day. Jaewoo whines internally about having to leave, his face contorting as he dreads returning to his difficult job. A lush green tree stands in the middle of a modern plaza, signaling his arrival back in the city. A quick beep-beep sounds as Jae-woo enters the penthouse, shivering because the heater has been turned off. He pauses as he looks around, sensing that the house feels inexplicably different than it did before. Seeing the evidence of a long night of drinking, he wonders about the boss's increasingly erotic habits. Happily humming, Jae-woo prepares a rich broth by carefully measuring out red pepper flakes and soy sauce. A shimmering close-up reveals the finished soup, its surface glistening with fresh sprouts and savory ingredients. A sudden gasp sounds as Jae-woo realizes something, his face turning pale with a comically shocked expression. Moojin lets out a tired huff while standing shirtless, his muscular physique looking completely drained from a long day. Drip! Jae-woo panics as water from Moojin's hair hits the expensive leather sofa, prompting him to intervene immediately. Flop! Jae-woo tosses a towel over Moojin's head, scolding his boss for not drying his hair properly after showering. The two men stand in the dim living room, Jae-woo gesturing animatedly while the shirtless boss listens quietly. Suddenly flustered, the orange-haired man realizes he overstepped, remembering that Moojin typically hates being touched by anyone. Blushing, Jae-woo tries to make a quick exit to the kitchen, but he is stopped by a firm call. Grab! Moojin reaches out and catches Jae-woo's wrist, his grip steady as he pulls the chef back toward him. Looking up with a small, rare smirk, the boss insists that Jae-woo should finish drying his hair for him. Internally screaming, Jae-woo protests the absurd request, wondering why a grown man would need help with such a thing. Swish! Giving in to the demand, Jae-woo begins drying Moojin's damp hair, his face a mix of confusion and annoyance. Jae-woo's expression softens as he focuses on the task, his initial irritation fading into a moment of quiet focus.
There, he announces he is finished, stepping back after ensuring every lock of the boss's dark hair is dry.
Moojin keeps his eyes closed for a moment, appearing strangely peaceful under the orange-haired man's unexpected care. Startled by the boss's reaction, Jae-woo lets out an "excuse me?" as he tries to process the unusual atmosphere. The black-haired man watches his chef with an unreadable gaze, his calm profile silhouetted against the penthouse lights. Chibi Jae-woo waves his hands frantically, adamant that there is absolutely no way he enjoyed the intimate moment. His face burns a bright red as he stands in the kitchen, feeling incredibly awkward after the physical contact. Moojin simply replies with a short, "Good," his expression returning to its usual stoic and composed mask. Flinch jumps slightly as his heart races, still struggling to regain his composure after the boss's request. Peek! He steals a quick glance at Moojin's back, marveling at the sheer size and definition of his muscles. A detailed view of Moojin's sculpted torso highlights the results of the rough and demanding life he leads. Chibi Jae-woo sighs, admitting to himself that he'll likely never achieve such an impressive and rugged physique. At the dining table, Jae-woo loudly declares he isn't envious while Moojin eats his meal in silence. The orange-haired man clutches his stomach and blushes, making up a clumsy excuse about his own sore muscles. Jae-woo forces a cheerful smile, trying to move past the embarrassment of being caught staring at his boss. Moojin looks up from his food, questioning the chef's odd behavior with a look of mild curiosity. The boss calmly informs Jae-woo that he will be returning home late tonight due to business obligations. Jae-woo huffs at Moojin's persistent wariness, reminding him to at least heat up his dinner before eating it. Alone at last, Jae-woo sprawls out on the sofa, lamenting how hard he worked throughout the long day. Tiny images show Jae-woo tirelessly washing dishes, doing laundry, and checking on his pickled garlic all morning long. Staring up at the ceiling, he realizes he has no one left to talk to in the quiet penthouse. Spring! He sits up with a bright idea, deciding to send a text to his friend Hyunjin instead.
A mischievous grin spreads across Jaewoo's face as he waits for a response to his sudden digital message.
The scene shifts to the sunlit city, where modern office buildings tower over the busy streets below. Clad in a hard hat and work vest, Hyunjin stares at his phone in confusion after receiving the text. A coworker approaches the black-haired man, loudly asking why he hasn't joined the group for lunch yet. Chibi Hyunjin blushes intensely as his coworker teases him about potentially having a secret girlfriend. Flustered, Hyunjin tries to keep a straight face while his coworker continues to pry into his private life. Top. The coworker nudges Hyunjin's arm playfully, refusing to let the subject of a lover drop so easily. Hyunjin remains silent as the older man asks if he is currently in the early stages of a relationship. The coworker continues his relentless questioning, making Hyunjin feel increasingly cornered by the gossip about his love life. Despite the teasing, a small blush remains on Hyunjin's face as he looks down at the message from Jaewoo.
He sends back a simple one-word reply, keeping his usual blunt and straightforward manner of communication.
Back at the penthouse, Jaewoo notes that Hyunjin's texting style is exactly like his speech, short and devoid of emojis. Pleased with the confirmation, Jaewoo begins to plan out the perfect lunch to pack for his hardworking friend. A vibrant close-up showcases a pile of golden, crispy fried food, looking incredibly appetizing and fresh. Shimmering highlights accentuate a large, succulent piece of braised rib meat, the main star of the upcoming meal. A glistening hamburger patty topped with a perfectly fried egg and fresh green onions is ready for serving. Blushing with excitement, Jaewoo considers what side dishes to pack, lamenting that his pickled garlic isn't ready yet.
The morning sun casts long shadows across the sleek, modern kitchen of the silent and empty penthouse.
Clad in a sharp suit, Moojin informs his chef he'll be home late while Jaewoo wishes him well. Wearing an apron, the orange-haired man offers a vague excuse about the large pile of containers he's packing. The boss narrows his eyes with a skeptical gaze, accepting the explanation with a brief and cold reply. Watching his employer depart, Jaewoo confirms the coast is finally clear to continue his secret lunch preparations. He focuses on packing extra-large containers, knowing that his hard-working friend Hyunjin needs a very substantial meal. A pile of raw, seasoned meat patties sits ready on the counter, waiting to be grilled to perfection. Looking around the high-end kitchen, he questions why such a fancy apartment wouldn't have a top-tier built-in oven. With a determined expression, the orange-haired man ponders whether he should go out and purchase some new appliances. Narrative bubbles explain his logic, noting he has Moojin's credit card and plans to work here for long. Sizzling sounds fill the kitchen as Jaewoo happily plans to buy a dishwasher and a robot vacuum. The finished lunchbox is a vibrant spread of rice, grilled patties, assorted vegetables, and crispy fried fish. Looking triumphant, the chef prepares to deliver his homemade feast, his face flushed with a sense of accomplishment. At the construction site, a coworker teases Hyunjin, asking if he's finally dating because he looks so happy. Hyunjin wonders if his joy is that obvious, while the gray-haired coworker confirms his unusually cheerful mood. Chibi drawings contrast Hyunjin's usual gloomy demeanor with his current state of being completely on cloud nine. The black-haired man walks alone, internally admitting that he might be getting a bit greedy for this happiness. A radiant smile breaks across Hyunjin's face, his cheeks flushed as he enjoys the rare feeling of bliss. Jaewoo greets his friend with a bright grin, confidently promising that he is going to love today's lunch. The full lunch spread looks spectacular, complete with steaming soup, fresh kiwi, and the savory main course. Sitting together at an outdoor table, the orange-haired man eagerly encourages his friend to take the first bite. Blushing at the incredible flavor, Hyunjin admits these are the best short rib patties he has ever tasted. Jaewoo listens intently as his friend mentions that winter is typically a slow season for his construction work.
He gently suggests that Hyunjin should consider getting a professional certification once this current project is finished. Looking thoughtful, the black-haired man sits on a bench and considers if it's finally time to move forward. With a warm and rare smile, Hyunjin agrees to think about the suggestion as they finish their meal. He thanks Jaewoo for the delicious lunch, promising to visit his friend whenever he has some spare time.
Jaewoo realizes he's in trouble, remembering he lied about working at a supermarket to hide his actual job.
Sitting in the back of his car, the stoic boss demands to be taken home immediately after work. Moojin looks toward the window, wondering if his chef went to the grocery store during his long absence today.
Buzz! A phone buzzes on the table, and Moojin grows suspicious of a late credit card notification.
He stares at the screen with a dark gaze, realizing the timing of the purchase doesn't add up.
Fwip! Jaewoo arrives home with a nervous laugh, claiming he was just out doing a bit of grocery shopping. Chibi Jaewoo panics in the background as he realizes Moojin likely received the receipt for his late-night purchase. Blushing furiously, he tries to explain away the large bag by claiming it's just for his personal items. Step! A sudden sound echoes as Moojin approaches, causing the flustered orange-haired man to flinch in fear. Jaewoo's heart sinks as he notices the cold tone of his boss, sensing that Moojin is truly angry.
Looming over him, the dark-haired boss whispers a chilling warning about how much he absolutely despises being lied to.
Moojin accuses him of protecting someone and asks what Jaewoo will do in exchange for keeping his secret.
Shocked and trembling, the orange-haired man wonders what kind of absurd demand the gangster is about to make. He fears an embarrassing request, but Moojin simply demands that Jaewoo must come whenever he is called. A dark visualization shows Moojin's shadow looming over Hyunjin, representing the danger his friend is now in. Recalling Hyunjin's bright and happy smile, Jaewoo realizes he had no choice but to agree to the terms.
He reflects on how he suddenly ended up waist-deep in a dangerous situation he never intended to enter.
Slump. Jaewoo collapses onto the sofa in despair, agonizing over the impulsive promise he just made to Moojin. The sun sets over the city as Hyunjin walks home, still glowing from the wonderful lunch he had. He stops in front of a rotisserie chicken shop, wondering if Jaewoo would enjoy a treat for dinner. Checking the price list, he decides he can finally afford to treat his friend to something nice tonight.
At a market stall under a glowing sunset, a customer places an order for 2 items from the vendor.
Jaewoo returns home with groceries, greeted warmly by Hyunjin and the 2 young boys waiting by the door.
Noticing Jaewoo's unusual gloom, the black-haired man worries about his friend's heavy burden after a long day of work.
Staring at the vibrant evening sky, Hyunjin wishes Jaewoo would quit his difficult job since money isn't an issue. He quickly dismisses the thought, acknowledging he shouldn't interfere with Jaewoo's personal reasons for continuing to work so hard. Recalling Jaewoo's appreciation for a previous treat, the black-haired man resolves to buy more for him in the future. While the group eats, the brown-haired boy rummages through his bag, announcing he received an important letter from school. Jaewoo realizes a field trip is approaching and immediately offers to prepare a special packed lunch for the children. The orange-haired man beams with excitement, clearly thrilled at the prospect of cooking a celebratory meal for his friends. One of the children eagerly offers to help, but a cheerful Jaewoo insists on handling the preparations himself.
The scene shifts to the towering penthouse where Jaewoo works, its glass windows reflecting the clear blue sky above.
Feeling utterly drained, Jaewoo sighs as he enters the apartment, dreading yet another encounter with his demanding boss, Moojin.
A worker explains he's installing a camera to stop a sneaking dog, leaving Jaewoo fuming at the veiled insult.
Gripping his bag with renewed intensity, the orange-haired man decides it's time to rebel against his boss's constant mistreatment.
At the grocery store, Jaewoo picks out a specific package, vowing to finally get back at the arrogant Choi Moojin. He cackles mischievously while holding a pack of fermented skate, anticipating Moojin's reaction to the pungent, strong-smelling dish. Moojin enters the dining room to find a massive spread of food prepared, unaware of the trap his chef set. The boss immediately notices the overwhelming stench of the fermented skate and strong soybean stew, realizing a prank is afoot. Acting completely shameless, Jaewoo presents a durian with a knife, doubling down on the stinky food theme for dinner.
Moojin watches with a calculating smile, deciding that his arrogant dog of a chef finally needs to be taught a lesson.
Jaewoo watches in confusion as his boss calmly eats the pungent meal, wondering if the fermentation wasn't strong enough. Tasting the food himself, a sudden escapes Jaewoo as he realizes he served himself something practically rotten.
Moojin mocks his failed prank, pointing out that Jaewoo clearly cannot handle the extreme flavors he tried to weaponize.
With a dark smirk, the boss demands that his chef finish every last bit of the stinky meal he prepared. Later, a disgruntled Jaewoo wears rubber gloves to clean up, internally cursing the boss for turning the tables on him. Feeling watched by the new security camera, he laments being treated so rudely despite his mature soul in a young body. He fantasizes about Moojin groveling before Hyunjin, determined to see his boss fall in love and suffer for his arrogance.
A loud mwahahaha echoes from the penthouse as the chef's spirit remains undeterred by the day's embarrassing defeat.
Shifting his focus, Chibi, Jaewoo, and the boy celebrate as they begin making cute, bear-shaped fried tofu rice balls. Jaewoo carefully demonstrates how to use cheese, ham, and seaweed to craft the adorable faces of the bear-themed treats. Hyunjin points out a bear's unusually large nose, leading to a light-hearted debate about animal anatomy during their cooking session. The finished lunchboxes look spectacular, featuring the cute bear rice balls alongside savory ribs and fresh fruit for the trip. Exhausted from the early morning cooking, Jaewoo rests his head on the table, a quick tap sounding as he checks his phone. He worries about how to ask for time off, fearing that Moojin will exploit his personal life if he leaves early. A sudden message from Hyunwoo makes Jaewoo spring into action, knowing his friend wouldn't ask unless it was serious. Moojin insults his chef's intelligence, coldly questioning if Jaewoo even understands the precarious nature of his current employment position. Despite the insults, Jaewoo remains firm, informing his boss that a family emergency requires his immediate attention at home. He shouts with conviction, declaring that his friends are family to him, and he won't abandon them when they're in trouble. Sensing an opportunity, Moojin offers a deal. He will handle the emergency if Jaewoo agrees to be at his beck and call. At the school office, a teacher tries to calm an angry mother, while a bruised young boy stands nearby in silence. The woman yells furiously at Hyunjin, outraged that his ward supposedly hit her sweet son, Taeho, during the trip. Crying hysterically, young Woo-hee defends himself, explaining that Taeho bullied him by calling him a hobo and stealing his lunch. A flashback reveals the cruel moment Taeho threw Woo-hee's homemade lunch on the ground, mocking the boy for his circumstances. The elitist mother remains unrepentant, cruelly insulting Woo-hee's lack of parents as the reason for his unfortunate situation. She crosses her arms with an arrogant expression, showing absolutely no remorse for her son's malicious behavior toward the orphan. Hyunjin looks down in defeat, bitterly accepting that society often mistreats those who have nothing to defend themselves with. The woman continues her relentless verbal assault, demanding an apology for the little joke her son played on the boy. Towering over the child, Hyunjin stands silently in the office while Woo-hee continues to weep from the emotional trauma. The boy's face is a mess of tears as a quick sniffle sounds, highlighting the physical and emotional pain he endured. Hyunjin comforts the sobbing child, his heart breaking as he listens to the boy's painful, name-like cries for help. A loud wah echoes as the black-haired man comforts Woo-hee,
feeling guilty for failing to protect the child.
Woo-hee faces the reddish-haired Taeho and his mother, who remains defiant while the teacher watches the tense interaction. Clad in a sharp suit, the orange-haired man arrives at the office with a confident and knowing smile. With a bright expression, the orange-haired Jae-woo formally introduces himself to the room as Woo-hee's legal guardian. Under the cover of night, the city street stays quiet while Jae-woo reflects on the necessity of his transformation. Earlier, Jae-woo looks surprised as the dark-haired boss, Moojin, brings him to a high-end boutique for a wardrobe change. A sudden, quick whoosh sounds as a tailor appears to measure the bewildered orange-haired man for a custom suit.
A smooth swish follows as Jae-woo is measured, while Moojin orders a canceled suit in his size for immediate use.
Gazing into the mirror, the orange-haired man feels incredibly awkward in the formal and expensive black suit. He realizes his past life as an idol trainee makes him look surprisingly handsome in the professional attire. Moojin watches silently as Jae-woo is shocked to receive a rare compliment from the usually cold and demanding boss. Confused by this sudden kindness, the orange-haired man wonders why his boss is going to such great lengths. An audible stride sounds as they walk, with Moojin explaining that a proper appearance is vital for exerting influence. Returning to the school, Jae-woo stands tall beside the principal, who reveals that his superiors were contacted beforehand. The mother in maroon gasps in disbelief, wondering why the principal is suddenly taking the orphan's side. Smirking, the orange-haired man reveals he has obtained the security footage and testimonies from the other children. The woman shouts in desperation, still trying to blame the young Woo-hee for hitting her son first. Gritting his teeth, Jae-woo furiously condemns the woman for allowing her son to bully and mock an orphan. A gentle slide occurs as Jae-woo exposes the hidden bruises on Woo-hee's arm, proving the extent of the bullying. He issues a final ultimatum, threatening to report Taeho to the school violence committee if they don't cooperate. The principal sternly confirms the facts, leaving the arrogant mother speechless as her power over the situation evaporates. Shaken and pale, the woman realizes the tide has turned against her and fears the consequences for her son. Looking down with a cold gaze, the orange-haired man enjoys seeing the elitist woman tremble in fear. The mother looks at Taeho with growing dread, asking her son to tell the truth about what happened. Sweat beads on Taeho's face as the boy finally admits to the principal that the accusations are all true. A miserable wah erupts as the boy confesses he only bullied Woo-hee because he wanted a nice lunch too. Taeho shouts that he hates kimbap, leaving his mother stunned by the realization of her son's true feelings. Looming over the crying child, Jae-woo watches as the truth finally comes out in front of the adults. He softly tells Taeho that Woo-hee is kind and would have shared the meal if only he had asked nicely. The orange-haired man smiles gently, hoping this lesson will change the way the young boy treats others. A sharp turn of his head shows Taeho looking away in shame, unable to face the person he hurt. A sudden flinch as Woo-hee wipes away his tears, still feeling the emotional weight of the confrontation. The mother yells at her son to apologize immediately, her former arrogance completely replaced by desperation. Taeho stands straight and sincerely apologizes to Woo-hee for the bullying and for hurting him during the trip. A rhythmic clap sounds as the principal praises the boys for settling the matter in a heartwarming way. Jae-woo demands that the woman apologize as well, his expression remaining stern as she becomes visibly tense. With a forced laugh and a nervous sweat, the mother apologizes, claiming she simply had the wrong idea. The orange-haired man warns her to hear the full story next time, instead of placing herself above others. The mother and son bow deeply in apology as Jae-woo and the black-haired Hyunjin watch them leave the office. Twilight descends over the city as the long and emotionally exhausting day finally comes to a close.
Jae-woo carries the sleeping Woo-hee on his back, while Hyunjin follows behind with a grateful and relieved expression.
A quick dash brings the black-haired Hyunwoo running out of many of the house, calling out to his injured brother. A soft rub follows as the tired Woo-hee wakes up, blinking sleepily at his worried friend at the gate. A frantic rush brings Hyunwoo to their side as he asks if Woo-hee is hurt badly after the trip.
The group heads inside the house as the orange-haired Jae-woo and the black-haired Hyunjin share a quiet moment.
Looking down in sorrow, the black-haired man laments his inability to help his friend when things got difficult.
Jae-woo reassures Hyunjin that they did nothing wrong and that the outcome was worth the struggle.
A firm grab as Jae-woo takes his friend's hand, offering silent comfort as they walk together in the dark. Leading the way, the orange-haired man declares he has no regrets about the deal he made for his family.
Despite his worries about Moojin's future demands, Jae-woo finds peace in seeing the two boys smiling again.
Holding the expensive suit, Jae-woo reflects on how uncomfortable the clothes felt, despite helping him look intimidating.
Back in his yellow pajamas, the orange-haired man wonders when he should return the borrowed formal attire. Watching Hyunjin and the boys sleep, Jae-woo realizes how truly exhausted they all were from the long ordeal. Determined to provide comfort, the orange-haired man begins his morning routine by carefully washing rice in the sink.
With a bright smile, Jae-woo proudly holds up a carton of milk as he prepares a special breakfast.
He decides on tarakjuk, knowing the mild porridge will be easy for the traumatized children to eat.
A warm smile spreads across his face as he cheerfully calls the group to the table for breakfast.
The boys head toward the meal as Jae-woo encourages them to dig in and enjoy the fresh food.
Turning to the black-haired Hyunjin, Jae-woo gently insists that his friend needs to eat to regain his strength.
He offers a bright, encouraging smile and a thumbs up, urging Hyunjin to take at least a few bites.
Feeling comforted by the kindness, the black-haired man looks up with a soft, grateful expression and a slight blush.
A quiet clink sounds as the group gathers around a table filled with a variety of nourishing side dishes.
A soft, satisfied nom follows as the black-haired Hyunwoo begins to eat, finding comfort in the familiar flavors. Young Woo-hee laughs happily, praising Jae-woo's delicious cooking while eagerly asking for a second serving of the porridge. As Jae-woo serves more, the boy curiously asks what the orange-haired man was doing at his school earlier. The question sparks a sudden realization for Hyunjin, who looks up as a quick, "Oh right," echoes in his mind. Internally, the black-haired man realizes he was so overwhelmed by the crisis that he forgot to ask how Jae-woo knew the principal.
Jae-woo explains that he only knew what to do because Hyunwoo called him to report the bullying situation.
He recalls the formal meeting at the school where he confidently presented the gathered evidence and witness testimonies.
While Hyunjin is amazed by the preparation, Jae-woo humbly admits that the idea for gathering evidence wasn't his. Chibi Jae-woo reflects on how Dong-soo expertly drafted the script and documents that helped them win the confrontation.
With a gentle and reassuring smile, the orange-haired man reminds his friend that they did nothing wrong.
Looking down at his empty bowl, Hyunjin laments that he wishes he could have handled the situation better.
Jae-woo pumps his fist, declaring that learning from mistakes is what truly matters to ensure it never happens again.
Standing before the closet, the orange-haired man stretches his arms out, preparing to put the past day behind him.
A sudden realization hits him as he looks toward the suit, remembering another important task he needs to handle. Staring at the dark fabric, he decides the expensive suit must be dry cleaned before he can return it.
A quick clack sounds as he grabs the suit, just as Hyunjin offers to help with the morning cleaning.
Startled by this sudden offer, Jae-woo clumsily tries to hide the suit while nervously insisting everything is fine. He rushes past his friend, claiming he must finish breakfast and get ready for work before the kids wake.
Hyunjin watches him know,
agreeing that everyone needs time to recover from the emotional shock of the trip.
A steaming plate of fried fish is served as the black-haired man offers a sincere thank you to Jaewoo.
Despite his gratitude, Hyunjin worries about the meager budget and the mounting costs of feeding their household.
Jaewoo turns back with a friendly smile as his friend calls out to him one last time. He waves off the concerns with a cheerful gesture, telling Hyunjin to stop worrying and focus on work instead. Sitting with the boys, the orange-haired man lets out a tired sigh, the weight of the morning finally showing. When Hyunwoo asks what's wrong, Jaewoo simply claims he didn't sleep well, hiding the true source of his stress. He remembers his stylish transformation and worries about the consequences if Hyunjin ever learns about his deal with Moojin.
Determined to protect their peace, the orange-haired man resolves to stay quiet and keep his secrets to himself.